Recorder at 6:02 p.m. We don't have to have a moment of silence or anything like that. Confirm officers.
Alicia, do you want to step up here and make sure that we know which officers that you need?
So we need basically our president, our vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and then the other members are
Board
members. So typically, the president would be the chairman, vice president would be the vice chairman, secretary is superintendent, and treasurer would be myself. This is how it is historically.
Sounds good. Do you need us to vote?
Yeah, it has to be affirmed.
Yes, confirmed, yeah.
However, whatever language that is.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion? Or I'll make the motion to confirm the officers as stated, myself being the
President.
president,
Vice president.
Ms. Richardson being the vice president, Dr. McComas being the secretary, and Miss Alicia being the the treasurer.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. 4, I think. Okay, number 3, consider approval of a property easement request from the city of Winchester for the sheer area cited in the deed of easement as described in proposal. Mr. Snap.
Chairwoman Hendricks and members of the board, members of the Finance Corporation. We present before you this evening with a proposal from WMU for easement on one of your properties out at Shear to run a new sewer line out there. And since you are the entity of deed owning the property, we have to appear before the corporation and ask for permission for for consideration of your waiver. So we've shared a map. I don't know if Jay or Justin could put that up. Generally, the location in which the line would cross your property. And as I was speaking with Mr. Romp, John Romp, who's here to represent WMU, that kind of corners on Broadway and Henderson Street, up around the corner in front of the property. That would feed into the subdivisions across the Broadway area, and also affects some of the Shearer property in which all of our drain water exits that drain as well. So as water floods through there, it comes, washes out through that area, goes to this pipe, and they're expanding this pipe because as I understand, John, you might want to address it. There's an expansion at the industrial park that requires an expansion of this line. So they're asking your permission to grant them a waiver or an easement to put a new line through that area of the property. And as I said, John Rump from WMU is here to answer any of your questions if you have any.
I can probably do that very briefly. WMU is got a consent decree with the United States District Court with the EPA. In 2007, there were 26 sanitary sewer overflows, and we're down to the last project. The black lines on there are sewer lines that have basically got a lot of infiltration and rainwater going into them. And you can see how it comes up East Broadway, then goes up Ashland Avenue, comes around. They're going to replace all of those lines, and then they're going to bring them down. And I circled the green there and put that red because that is the exact location where it goes across the front of Shear School's property. Then you can see it runs down, goes under the railroad, goes down Flanagan Street, picks up Buckner Street, goes over and then runs down to Highland Street, and then on out East Broadway, and then goes to the interceptor all the way to the wastewater treatment plant. I only put part of the map up there, but I wanted you to know that this is part of a very large, difficult, complicated project, which we're doing. And I'm the lawyer, okay, but because we don't have a general manager, they make me come. It's something that will be the last piece of the puzzle for us, and so we just ask your help. It is coming from the School Board Corporation because all your property is owned by the School Board Corporation, and the easement has to come from who owns the property. So
I'll add, John just shared with me that the project is scheduled to go to bid in June and to begin in August, but he doesn't know exactly where that's going to begin.
Correct.
So I do have some interest in at what point in time, the school year, that project would be would be taking place.
What's the start
WMU
date?
will coordinate that with Don.
Sure.
You know, they'll ensure that there's as least interruption as there can be in the, if y'all driven around Lexington, you can see Lexington's doing the same thing. They're digging up the streets and they're under consent decree too. And so this, basically, the old sewers are going to be replaced so that the sewage doesn't run out. And I was telling Don this afternoon, he asked, how does it benefit the schools? And I said, well, I guess these kids walk to school, and if it's raining real hard and the sanitary sewers are overflowing, it ain't good. So this is a project that I personally would be very proud when this is done and we will have completed all our obligations. And as Mayor Bertner likes to remind everybody, we will have the cleanest sanitary sewer system in central Kentucky. So appreciate it if y'all would approve that. And I did revise that and change the dates, and I'll give them to you. Thank you. Anybody got any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Do we have any questions?
Has Ms. McCoy, have you reviewed the deed?
The proposed easement, deed of easement, yes.
Any issues?
Not that I see, and I fully trust Mr. Rump. He's very well versed in what he does.
And it is, by the way, it is a standard form easement, nothing different from you guys, anybody else. Just telling Mr. Stump that we've had 19 of these easements. I got one guy that's just, picking me to death. And I'm not gonna name him.
It's not me.
It's not me. There's one out there. There always is one. But, anything else?
Any more? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the property easement request from the city of Winchester for the shear area cited in the deed of easement as described in the proposal presented tonight.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a
Thank
motion?
you very much.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:09. Thank you.
I almost made it for 6:15, and I thought if I do, then there's
Then
gonna be
it'll run
lots of
over.
questions.
order at 6:31 p.m.
Do we have any public comments?
I would ask that we stand for a moment of silence and just remember the families and the communities affected today in Texas. There was a school shooting there at an elementary school, and let's keep those families in our thoughts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, review of the agenda. Dr. McComas suggests that we table item number 11, that we have not received the documents from the gas company to make a decision. Any questions? Someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with item number 11 being tabled?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, approval of minutes for February 22nd, 2022.
It's a good-
Can we get all of them in April 26th?
I wasn't,
I was in April.
You weren't
We
there
have
in
to pull
April?
it out after February
because
7th.
I wasn't
She
She wasn't
February.
in February.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion to approve February 22nd regular meeting minutes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, do I have a motion or any questions about the April 26th meeting minutes? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Staff and student recognition.
Okay, this is a big night.
It is.
Lots of great things going on in Clark County. And we're gonna start with, this may be a little out of sequence,
Sorry.
depending on my stacks, but I think I'm good here. We're gonna start with recognition of, and some of our RDC students may not be here because they're also doing an event over at their school. But we wanna recognize Clark County Board of Education, the superintendent and the staff would like to recognize 2 Campbell Junior High students for their success at the STLP State Championship competition in April. In the digital storytelling category, 8th grader Ella Houghton won first in the state. In the same category, 7th grader Reagan McCormick earned second in the state for a clean sweep by Clark County. STLP is a program that offers students statewide an opportunity to design, create, and present digital projects. In the digital storytelling category, our students wrote original stories using Google Docs and created illustrations for them using Google Drawings and Google Slides. Are these 2 separate? Okay, let me make sure I've got my first set right then. Okay, so Ella Houghton, sorry, and Reagan McCormick. Sorry, Reagan.
Thank you.
Okay, now, there you go. We want to recognize Clark County Board of Education Superintendent and the staff. Would like to recognize Campbell Junior High Chair, Ms. Dominica Parton, for her commitment to school's technology leadership program, STLP. It is a program, again, that offers students statewide opportunities to design, create, present digital projects. This year, 2 of her students won first place and second place in the state, but her program's overall success stretches nearly 2 decades long. Hundreds of students have been a part of Ms. Parton's STLP program over the years, developing both friendships and a love for technology along the way. Her program regularly produces state finalists in numerous categories, and her students consistently leave her program more effective communicators and learners. So congratulations, Mrs. Parton. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're going to recognize our Governor Scholars for the arts. So the arts programs, I'm going to give you the list, and I'm going to hope they're in order. Ms. Nance, I'm good, right? Okay. So the following students have been accepted to either GSP, Governor Scholars Program, or the Governor Scholars for the Arts Program. Planning on taking individual pictures with them will be posted on social media by Mr. King and Smoke Signals. He's all excited about that. In the past, they've been recognized at board meetings for student recognition, and he wanted to make sure that he followed this tradition. We're going to first start with Miss Allison Houston. Stay up here after you do we're going to do a picture first, sorry. We'll do a picture. Then we'll have you stay up here. Congratulations. Madison Marsala, Claire Martin, congratulations. Thank you. Okay, we'll have you stand over there. Liliana Rosa, Barbara Sheehan, Mason Boley, Hunter Cooper, Cooper Kincaid, Jason McCormick, and then Tennyson Prater. Okay. You want to do one group picture, please? Yeah. And then our Governor Scholars. Thank you. Our Governor Scholars for the Arts. Charlie Wesley for musical theater. Emma Hackworth, also for musical theater. Yeah, part of the Cardinal Singers group right here. Absolutely stunning. I'm probably talking about it. And then Portland Crabtree for vocal music. All right, thank you so much. Okay, and now we're going to do tech state competition. Congratulations, the engineering pathway may be small, it's not for everyone, but success like this is going to help promote the pathway. Okay, so we're going to start with Mr. Mark Ballard, Coleman, early line, Billy Morris, and Kaylee Phelps. Seth Harris. Oh, that's our teacher, sorry, Mr. Seth Hines. Okay. So this is one of my, there's lots of favorites, we don't have favorites, but this is one that I'm exceptionally excited about. So smoke signals, I'm gonna ask if you're in smoke signals, if you'll just go ahead and come up here tonight. We had a video. Come on up, Ms. Clark. Ms. Kendall, thank you so much for coming. So we had a video that showed just a moment ago, and it has sound and voiceover, and we're gonna use it as promo videos that will be showed on our Facebook page, our website. Baker is gonna use it, RDC is gonna use it so that we can increase interest early into our amazing HEC pathway. So these young ladies are big in making sure Kendall is marketing class. Sarah is also in the marketing class. So Kendall Barnes. And Miss Sarah Clark. And I'm going to go ahead and just read off the other names and then I'll put their list here. Thank you guys so much. We have Campbell Taylor, Sarah Johnson, Aniston Colton, Cameron Anderson, Mario. Robert Pruitt, Kira Brummer, Jacob Maslin, Parker Redmond, and Cassie Flannery. Oh, why did you come out for smoke signals? I'm so sorry. Oh. Sorry, and I had my board table too. I'm gonna do that over, okay? So Cassie, Larry, and Parker Redmond are gonna come up and we're gonna showcase our ag department. Traditionally, what happens is you have, traditionally we as a school district will order outsourced t-shirts and different apparel that we would have to wear, but our wonderful ag department, they have this amazing press over there. And so Miss Fitton, where did she go? Miss Fitton went over and she met with Miss Higg and our students, and they did over 800 shirts for our district for teacher appreciation and staff appreciation. And so instead of that money going to a company, we as a district got to put the money back into our ag program, and these are two of the many students that had a lot of sweat and tears and labor for that project. So thank you guys so much. All right, now Jacob and Kira. Sorry, I was rolling through my certificates and not paying attention, so I'll do that. So Mr. Addison is our carpentry instructor at the ATC in this beautiful piece of furniture that you see behind us. These two are responsible for building that, and we were able to have a paid commission project as our ATC carpentry class. So excited. Getting them to bring it in was really fun too that day. We got to put it all together and it came in different pieces, and it was really exciting. So we appreciated their help. Then is Robert here too, Mario? Okay, so Robert's another student. Mario, come on up. And Mr. Willoughby is our welding instructor. And there was another video or slideshow picture of the blessing box. And the blessing box is actually probably taller than Mario, really big. And if you're all familiar with blessing boxes around Clark County, there's one on Hickman Street, there's one actually in our DC parking lot. And they're to help, sometimes it's kids going back and forth to school and they want a snack, sometimes it's elderly people in our community, sometimes it's folks that are experiencing homelessness, and it just gives extra resources. It could be dog food, it could be cleaning supplies, it could be macaroni and cheese or cereal. And so we have had an issue over at Justice Ball Field where we had a little situation, and we have some folks that are experiencing homelessness close to that area. So Mario and Robert built a blessing box out of steel that was donated to our APC. So our welding instructor, Mr. Willoughby, has been wonderful. And Mr. Kendrick in the back has helped us with that too. And we're going to be on the news. All of you said we're going to be on the news this week on Thursday. So thanks, Mario. Sorry. Okay, I don't think I missed anyone. Okay. Staff recognition for Clark County preschool staff for their extraordinary efforts for being a gem, going the extra mile. Since January, when the preschool kitchen caught on fire, the staff and the preschool have continued to feed the preschool students daily meals and moved the operation over to the high school, so thanks to GRC, which allowed them to prep, cook, and deliver meals back and forth each day, serving preschool students. They served off of tables set up in the cafeteria. They fed children without being able to get up into their kitchen at the preschool, and they did this for months with a smile. So we want to recognize and thank our preschool nutrition staff, starting with our cafeteria manager, Miss Amy Rowe. And we will have, yeah, I think they want to do a picture.
I wanted to do a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Thank you. And then we're going to have Miss Linda Stevens, Assistant Cafeteria Manager. Hello, thank you so much. Miss Molly Shear, one of our cooks. Okay, what about Summer Spivey? Summer. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and these will be with Dr. Parrish. For our bus drivers, transportation recognition for safe driving. And these are awarded for May.
Yes.
Is Mr. Parker here this evening?
He's not.
Okay. Miss Donna Puckett. Rhonda Ratliff. Linda Roglitz. Rose Ross. There we go. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Tammy, you want to? And then Arlene Sparks. Eric Staton.
Let me go back to my seat now.
Christopher Thomas. You've been to 2 or 3 different places this afternoon.
See Danny Hall.
Yeah, I know. And then Vanessa Williams. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, Miss Brenda Willoughby. Okay. John Short, commitment and dedication to students to support with transportation department with no fault accidents for 3 years. Okay, I didn't have John on my list. All right, thank you. Okay, and now last will be our attendance awards, Justice Elementary. So Miss Hillman, come on up. She is going to receive the flag for a 93.72 for preschool elementary attendance winner.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, well, you're taller. Thank you all. All right. Well, we'll let the tall girl. I should make you. Yeah, I know. So why do you have to stay on the page? All right, so I'll get a quick lesson on how to, if I don't injure anybody while we're. If I met Thank you, appreciate it. It hasn't been with justice, and I'm excited for you. Baker Intermediate has the secondary with a 92.69%. He sends the celebrities to pick up his awards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you all probably know how to like put this thing together.
No, well, they'll put it together.
I don't know the first thing.
Okay, Garrett, see it, I'm sorry.
Let the try to get it.
Like by the end of the year, I know.
You might have to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Especially when
Okay, and the overall winner is Stroke Station.
Oh, she gets the ball.
Okay. It's gonna move in over at Stroke, with a 95.05% attendance.
Stroke. We'll keep it now forever.
Well, I have this book, she'll probably make it.
We might as well. We might as well.
Okay, thank you guys so much. I hope you really did appreciate the effort that we put into partnering with our school district, our Cardinal Singers, our choral band, the performing and visual arts. They do an exceptional job. If you haven't got to see them or go to some of the events that they had, please do so next year. ATC and the CTE programs at GRC and our ATC are just absolutely phenomenal. So we're really thankful for their willingness to partner with us too in order to do project-based learning and some paid jobs that benefits them, and we get to showcase all some great work for it. So be tuning in. Mr. Kindred, is it, what channel is it? 27. Channel 27. Thursday, we'll have the ATC showcase that was held on April 29th, and they interviewed Mario, Kira, Robert, and Jacob. So we're excited to have that on the air. Thank you.
Justin, can you see if there's any public comment? Public comment?
There's five.
Good job on getting everything here.
Before we move on from student and staff recognition, as a lot of you know, this is the first year that we've had a student representative on the board, and Mr. Warren Harris is our student representative, and he graduates Friday with the rest of the seniors, and we have a little something for him.
Warren came on, well, I met Warren during the whole beginning of the COVID thing, and I got this random messages in my Facebook from this kid from GRC that was like, I'm ready to go back to school, could you please just let us go back to school? And I kept getting them weekly, and I was like, who is this child? And he's continued on, and I Bill and I, as we were chair and vice chair, he kind of became ours, because we heard from Warren, daily. So he's been phenomenal. Couldn't have asked for a better first student representative. We love you dearly. I don't know if you all know, but he's going into education, so that's what he's gonna major in. So I look forward to him coming back and teaching my children. But I told him that the other day, but anyway, so got your little UK blankets as you go on to UK, and you have a little gifts. I do have you a shirt.
Warren, thanks for stepping up and serving and being the being the guinea pig, I guess.
Yes.
You've handled a lot.
You have.
Thank you all.
We've enjoyed having you.
I almost said student staff recognition. Public comment. We have 5 people down. Summer Spivey. Linda Stevens.
They may have thought they were signing
I
in.
think this is what's happened.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Amy Rowe. Sophie Ballard.
They're used to signing in.
Yeah, they're used to signing in.
Jeannie. Okay. Is that you? Okay. Yes.
What's her name?
Jeannie. Could you pronounce your last name? I can't really.
Pardon?
Could you pronounce your last name for us?
Hadad.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here from a number of people who expressed concerns about not being able to hear what the board members are saying. Being concerned with what we're missing is a big deal for us. I would suggest one of 2 things, and you guys can figure out what you'd like to do. One of them is speak up, so that, when you're in this thing, it doesn't come out. And so that, or maybe the youngsters who built this wonderful thing you're sitting at could figure out a way of miking it. So.
Very good.
Thank you. So we have no more public comment.
I have a public comment, if I could. I didn't sign up, is that okay?
Do we?
Just state her name.
Yeah, if you just want to state your name, I'll write your name down. You can come up.
My name's Jennifer Davis.
Okay.
It's kind of a comment / question. First, I want to thank you all. My son has had an incredible home hospital teacher for the last 3 years. Unfortunately, she was pink slipped. He has significant learning challenges and developmental challenges, and he's over the past 3 years, he's had a home hospital, and he's had 3 different teachers, 2 of which have made 0 effort to understand him, work with him, and he recognizes this. And he's commented that he refuses, he's not going to work. He is a sophomore currently, and he just will not work. He has a lot of anger issues as well. He has a slew of diagnoses, but I won't get into that. But anyway, I was hoping to understand what the plans are for the home hospital department for the next year, and to understand, was her position cut? Was she just pink slipped? I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it so I can explain to him, because I haven't told him yet. Because it's not going to go well. School for him is a trigger, and so her coming to the house is something that he actually looks forward to working with her. And I'm honestly extremely concerned about his future in the education system And will his needs be met? I just have a lot of questions as far as that goes, like, and I need answers. Because I'm struggling with him right now, with trying to, explain to him what's going on and why she won't be back. And what the future holds, because that is scary for him.
I want to thank you, for coming here and addressing the board. And I don't want you to feel like we've pushed you off. But personnel issues are to be discussed in closed session among the board. And the board really doesn't have any power over personnel.
Okay.
What I would like to do, and to follow that up, public comment is a time for public comment.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, in the past, I know we've had like question and answer type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would not mind to do that today.
Okay.
But I do think that if you wouldn't mind to give Miss Nance your phone number and your contact information,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come write my information down for you.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure that you get a meeting with
Perfect.
the appropriate people so we can get your son what he deserves.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. And I don't want you to feel like we're being dismissive, but, I call it red tape for what we can do and what we can't do, but I want to make sure that you get with the people that can answer your questions and we can get this straightened out for you.
I appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you. Who does that to us? Will you give that to her?
Thank you so much.
Okay, if there's no more public comment, student support services, number 4, acknowledge therapy dog community support, Miss Brittany Forsyth.
I wanted to apologize. We didn't realize that one of our friends, that his kryptonite is clapping, so we had to step out during all the recognitions. So we just wanted to say thank you for giving us this opportunity. We created, I guess I need to start with introductions, right? First, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm Brittany Forsyth. I'm the school counselor at the preschool this year, and I'm Rocky's handler.
I'm Carrie McGrath. I'm the school counselor at Concrete Elementary, and I'm Suki's handler. And I'm Kelly Banta. I'm a speech therapist in the district, and I'm a grade intermediate and this is
Moses. So we created a flyer that we'd like to give you guys. We created a vision and mission statement for this program that we started. Each of us have gone through accreditation. We have accreditation and certifications and insurance for each of our animals. Sorry. But we created a vision and mission, and I just wanted to read that to you and describe what their duties are and just to say hello. So we said the Clark County Public Schools Canine Counselor vision is to promote academic excellence for all students in Clark County by teaching positive mental and emotional health concepts and strategies through the use of specialty trained animal-assisted therapies. So Ms. Carey is going to talk about the duties that we want to do in the schools and how that is going to help our students.
So we just listed several of the job duties that we know for our dogs that are going to be useful. And some of those are greeting students and welcoming new students. So when we give tours of our buildings, our animals can come and hopefully provide some at ease for new students and families. Social skill groups for special education and general education groups, small counseling and classroom lessons, individual counseling sessions, reading interventions groups. I'm not sure if you all have ever been able to read some of the studies on reading to dogs. It shows a lot of growth for students just to be able to sit down and actually read to a dog, whether it's in the library or maybe in my office. I plan on starting a book club at our school, so she'll be a part of that, where at-risk students will come and read a book that is a chapter book that's going to meet their specific needs, and she'll be a part of that group. de-escalation techniques, rewards for attendance, or behavior intervention incentives. I know at the elementary level and preschool level, we have a lot of students that struggle to get out of the car in the morning, especially post-COVID, just missing home. So having a furry friend that's willing to greet them and encourage them to come in to have a great day is a really great de-escalation strategy, and also something that can help them just positively come into the building and have a great start to their day. So that's just a handful of things that we know that they're going to be able to do.
And we made a slideshow, and it has a bajillion things on it.
I can send it to you later.
Yeah, sorry. But it has we surveyed some of our staff and how they felt about having the dogs in their building. We talked about, I'm blanking on Eastern, Southern, which one is it? Eastern Elementary in Scott County. We partnered with her, and she was able to share with us attendance data and behavior data on specific students that she tracked, that she worked with the therapy dog with those students, and it's awesome. So I would love to be able to share that with you. If you take one of these flyers, we'll put them in the back. It also has a QR code that you can scan that will take you to the Facebook page that we made. We're calling them the Canine Clarks, and we're excited about getting it started. Thank you.
Thank you. The QR code's on.
Are you the only three that have them right now, or is this something you all are hoping to expand to all the schools?
I think it would be great to partner with. I know that us three have insurance and have accreditations. I'm not sure about other animals, but we have worked together. Kelly and I, we are actually UK canine counselor trained, so we actually go to the UK hospitals on Thursdays and meet with patients. I know Sydney's looking to join us soon, but I'm unaware of any other animals in the district.
Like increased exposure, more knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not like they can perform any specific tasks. So
Right.
as long as you have a dog who loves people,
And they are not service dogs.
semi-obedient.
They're therapy
Yeah.
dogs. So a couple people said, "Hey, can I pet them?" Absolutely, that is their job. Their job is to
We have
provide love.
therapy dogs.
So
And
yeah,
my fiance trains therapy dogs. That's
Okay.
why I didn't know if that's something that you all are putting in all schools, because Dr. McComas and I talked about this when she first came on, and I'm a huge supporter. Love it.
yeah, we
So,
love it.
yes, and would love to see it in all schools.
Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely.
I've seen what they can do with kids.
And just through KSCA, our state conference, we've met other counselors in the state that have been doing this, and some librarians too have been putting that in place as part of their reading program. And that is a big difference between what some people would consider an emotional support dog versus a therapy dog, is specified training and certification and licensure with insurance companies that protect us and the dog.
And so when Ms. Forsythe brought this to me, we went over some specific requirements. Again, in-person training is incredibly important because you can get online certifications for your animals. So some people in our district might say they have a certified animal, but they did it through them taking a class online and not the dog or the animal actually taking a class. So we're working through finalizing our procedures. I've been working with Warren County School District because they have procedures on therapy animals. Again, Brittany's got an amazing, amazing slideshow, and does that connected to your QR code so that they can?
No, but I can.
Okay.
I can share it on it.
You might want to do that because it's really incredible and extensive. And then they keep growing, but they will have the structure that we will want to see replicated if we allow other therapists or counselors. So a teacher is not going to be able to bring a dog in.
Right.
It's going to be discussed with leadership, like how many days are you going to allow the therapy animal, can it impede their other work. So we've got some things that we're still going to get through in the procedure side of it, but this is just a tremendous start. Really excited. They've been biting at the bit to come. So this has been 4 or 5 months in the
Also
works.
going to be months at the beginning, especially like for the preschool. My goal is to find a stuffed animal that looks like my dog, that's about the size of my dog, that I can first couple days like introduce some of the students to that, and I can teach them strategies on how to talk to him on the hallway and how to have those appropriate interactions with him. So it'll definitely be a process for each of the schools.
So will you eventually be able to be trained to train others?
I don't know that that's on our plate just yet. It takes a little bit more certification on our part.
Like, when you all brought this up, I
Yeah.
said, oh yeah, well, they need to do this, yeah, so I already had y'all trained and ready to get a best
Rocky is really excited about the playground equipment. At Possibility, they teach them how to go down the slide and upstairs and things, so it's been interesting watching them
a lot of fun. And like mine didn't really love the stairs at Congrad at first, and so just working with my administration after school when kids and teachers aren't there, we've been able to go after school hours and practice and train in the school and get used to the school setting. So they've already been doing some work in the schools when students aren't there, just to be prepared. And so like Brittany said, we've got some bibliotherapy ideas and books and just strategies, things that we're going to teach the kids before even bringing the dogs in.
But we will be very tight on approval of who's allowed to bring a dog. And again, you've heard them talk about their own insurance liability, so that that will be part of the procedures, that they have to have that on file. So they are actually a good pilot group that have been wonderful to work with. Shared more information with me before I asked for anything. So it's been a good experience, I think, for all of us. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you. Number 5, consider discussion and action of a survey. Ms. Richardson.
I have. Not Sherry. I just got upstaged.
Can I ask something? I may not know all the procedures of how we do it, but when it does come time for our turn on the docket, am I allowed to speak? Or, well, I wasn't here in time to sign in.
We already had public comment, Miss Missy.
So it's for just, but I'm not the public. I am part of the system.
Yeah, Miss Lowry will get up and address the board with Miss Ellis's help. And then if there's something that you want to share, you and I can have a private meeting and I can share that back to the board. Okay, thank you.
Number 5, consider discussion and action of a survey. Ms. Richardson.
Okay, I made a copy of a survey and not really the survey, but a
Proposal.
plan, right, thank you, from Cognia. Just to see how, we're doing as a district. It's it'd be a short survey just to the district staff, certified and classified. We can have a couple questions on there that are open-ended where people can voice any concerns or praises or whatever. But I thought this, we had talked about this early on about doing another survey, so I wanted to get this together and hear your feedback.
So this would go to this company, correct?
It is yes, it's a third party. So any of the comments would be anonymous, and it would all go to the third party, and they collect the data and get it back to us.
Who comes up with the survey questions? Us?
We can. We can, or they can help us.
They apparently they can help you structure them, or we can shoot them some ideas of what we'd want to know, and then they can.
And this is their current prices, or this one? Did you get this currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're a member of this group.
We are.
Do you know when the next accreditation is going to be?
Do we know when the next accreditation is? No, we just finished our surveys for the strategic planning that we did with Studer earlier in the year, and our focus group reports will be coming back too, which also were open-ended, allowed people to participate, and that was for parents, staff, and students grades 3, 4 up through high school. And that closed on Monday, or the 20th, that closed on the 20th.
So is the intent for this to be a board survey for the questions and answers to come back to the board for us to review?
I think so, yes.
Almost like a follow-up of some of the stuff we sent out, I think, during our superintendent search.
Search.
Like, what were some of your concerns, and
How do
now.
you feel like we're moving? Do you those kind of things.
Do you know when you would want to roll it out?
Well, you know, so the last day of school is Friday. And I had hoped that we could have done this before the end of school because I want everybody to participate. So, no.
I'm under the impression it could happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
While people are still in the buildings.
Do you have the question, they have a question bank? Because if you have that tomorrow, we could probably get it loaded through Infinite Campus and if there's a link, I can send that out pretty easily.
Yeah, we can get that. There's a question bank. I think we would just probably need to narrow them down, deciding.
So you need a special meeting or something to
No, I don't even think you'd have to have a special meeting for that.
decide on questions. I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you decide what questions you want?
I hadn't thought about it that way.
Have they given these types of surveys before for districts? Do they have one that's already been like used in another district that you could ask them to replicate for Clark County? They could send us the link.
They do. We just want to make sure everybody's good with the questions.
Yeah.
And we'll get them to send us a list of questions, see what they've got, and go from there. But I don't think that, I mean, if we vote to hire them to do the survey, the questions shouldn't have to be voted on in a special called meeting.
I wouldn't think so. The board could authorize someone to approve the questions.
So get somebody to like send the questions in email, get everybody's input, put the questions together.
So you're not voting right now.
Yeah.
I guess we just need to determine how many questions.
Yeah. And
I'd say 5 questions.
One from each, that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
like one from each person and be done.
right. Less than 10 for sure. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be,
People get tired of filling
yeah,
out.
Get tired of surveys.
right.
Yeah.
Any questions?
As long as we define who's going to, as long as we define who's gonna submit the questions and where those questions are, the answers are gonna come back to.
They'll go back to Cognia and
When-
they'll.
When they're answered, where are they coming back to? That's what I.
Cognia.
Yeah.
Okay, and then who's Cognia gonna share them?
Oh,
With
Us.
That's what I want.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
do they just come in to a meeting with us and?
I think so, yeah. I hadn't really gotten that far, but, just wanted to see how you all felt about moving forward on this, because I know we talked a lot about it, you know, when we were doing the search, that was something that we wanted to keep up with.
Yeah,
So-
they did a really good presentation that night, I remember that.
And I think that from what I gather, when it's time to present the information collected, that can look like whatever we want it to look like. Like if we need to, closed session stuff or whatever, I think.
Well, you could
Would-
present it when you do the strategic planning. You got your focus group data, you've got your other data that will be coming in, you can compile it with that, triangulate all your data together.
When's that supposed to be?
I'll have to have my follow-up meeting with Dr. Creel, but our focus group reports are pretty much finalized. That was with over 207 participants, and then we have the surveys that closed on Friday, so they're putting all of that together.
And how were those surveys collected? Through
It was-
Infinite Campus? Or-
It was a link through the Huron Studer Company
Okay.
that got sent out. So the link got sent out. They answered the survey. That information, similar to this process, goes back to the strategic planning group, and then they're compiling all that data, and then we'll get a formal report that I'll be able to share with you all in our district. And the focus group report's going to be the same way, and then they'll put it all together for us.
Any more question or discussions?
So,
Which one, I guess?
I'm trying to wrap my head around.
You're okay.
So, we think that we're going to be able to get these questions and get it out before, when is the last day for staff?
Tuesday. We have closing day on Tuesday. We have Friday's graduation, last day of students is Thursday.
Okay. I'm gonna be very honest, it's gonna be very hard to get it back.
Yeah.
I know, because I've collected surveys in the
Yeah.
past, one of my jobs. And I mean, generally you leave them open for a couple of weeks. But it's just, if we had done it maybe the 1st of May,
Yeah.
And this was something, again, I understand your concerns. It was something that we wanted to discuss.
because if you only get like 50 back,
Then you've wasted your money.
you've
Yeah.
wasted
Yeah.
money.
No, but if nothing else, we just wanted to bring it up.
Could we think of starting the year off with it? After we see what we get back from the strategic planning surveys? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
I
I know
know,
how
I know.
hard it is.
Yeah.
If we weren't at the end of the year, it would be easier to collect. But right now, people are finishing up and checking off.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And this was something we wanted to address at the special called session.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna
But
need some more time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea.
Right.
I think we need feedback as to, as a board,
Uh-huh.
what do we, because I
Right.
think
Yeah.
we need to know what we need to work on as
Right.
well.
Right.
But I don't know if this is a good time to get it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
is
and I
school
really don't wanna
support?
brush the questions too much, because
I wanna
I
think
wanna,
about it.
as the scope of work says here, they'll collaborate with us, and I think that'd be important to
Yeah.
collaborate with us.
Do you want to table this maybe to the meeting, the regularly scheduled meeting in July? So we can
Yeah.
maybe
Would that
have
work?
them
Yeah.
come
Okay.
in.
Yes.
And
I think it's a great idea too.
I think
Okay.
we need it, but I think for us to try to determine what questions and what information are we looking for, I think we need a little bit of a work session
Yeah.
to come up with that.
Okay.
And it may be that Cognia would have a representative there to kind of help guide us, because
Right.
I see us just pulling out random questions and,
do you want to have, most guys, let's just table this to July.
Or do you wanna go on and go with them and have them start coming in and working this so you have the proper one ready to roll out?
That's not a bad idea either.
Yeah,
a bad
that's a good idea.
So
Yeah.
that way.
That gives us more time.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
So
just
you get it
trying
right.
to get it done by Tuesday.
Right. I fully understand.
And that way you could bring in, I don't know if it would be Miss Stone or who would be the one representing, but she could come in, explain, get the process rolling, and it would be,
And what are we looking for? And
Yeah,
right.
what information are we wanting to glean from a survey?
I mean, I think you could always go with them and then choose her package when she comes in or whatever and tells us what we're doing.
Yeah.
What she, explains it with detail and
Yeah, that's a good idea.
get us, that way we have an intention of going this direction and we can get started with it.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So somebody want to make a motion? Because we got a pretty stacked agenda.
And I'll make a motion, wait a minute, let me get back to okay. I'll make a motion to, how am I gonna word this?
Make a motion to approve a proposal from Cognia for.
Survey.
Survey.
for
Yeah.
A staff survey.
Staff survey.
Okay, make a motion to approve Cognia for a staff survey and to discuss with them at the next meeting or scheduled meeting.
Mhm. We'll schedule a meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, you're up again. Consider discussion and action of an audit. Ms. Richardson.
Okay, this is another thing, this is just a little housekeeping for us, because these are two things that we've talked about. And I think we've got, a couple auditors that are interested, and we're just, doing some background check on them, that would come in and do that forensic audit that we've talked about. So this is just, an approval to get that going.
May I ask when we've talked about a forensic audit during a board meeting?
Well, we talked about it amongst ourselves several times, and when we were going through the superintendent search, and I don't know if we've talked about it during a board meeting per se. But I know that I've at least had conversation. I think we mentioned it the night you were hired in the old boardroom. This is just something we have felt like as a board that we would like to have done for a while.
So usually, not disagreeing, but usually with a forensic audit, you're gonna have suspicion, cause for fraud, those types of things that you would need to, like, that we should be doing some other investigating work. So when I saw that on there, because I wasn't sure what the audit was for, I pulled the statute from the Office of Educational Accountability, because we could call OEA if you have concerns about finances. Miss Ellis has Mr. Sparks and company that comes in. I actually went in and had a private conversation with him during that audit, the compliance audit, but asked him to make sure that we are, is there anything that causes alarm that we should be aware of? He dug a little bit deeper. There was no suspicion of anything happening there. Very complimentary of Miss Ellis. So I feel like our finances are in good compliance, but if you wanted to start with one, it might be wise to look at OEA. So I pulled that for you because I wasn't quite sure what the audit was going to entail, but I didn't recall talking about a full-scale forensic audit during a board meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that it was in the board meeting, but I know we have discussed it quite a few times, maybe prior to you being here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the consideration is just to solicit proposals at this point to see what that would be for forensic.
And maybe talk to people one-on-one and really see to what level.
What it includes. So we put that out to bid.
Yes.
Essentially, yeah.
I feel like I'm screaming, but I'm trying to talk loud.
And then the air's on, so it's another whammy.
Yeah, the air's on up here too, so.
We did talk about mics earlier today with Mr. Kaysen and Mr. Dameron, though.
I see no reason not to solicit, I mean, we're not approving any monies tonight, I see no reason to at least solicit proposals, to see what the proposals will include. So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm gonna
Or you got a
catch you there.
Okay.
It's my understanding this is a professional service. We don't really have to ask for bids.
You don't have to go through the procurement procedure unless you want to. You can, you don't have to.
I just want to see what they offer.
Yeah, we can get them in to do a presentation.
Okay.
So I guess my thing was, before you worded your motion, I just wanted to make sure like that didn't hold us down to like asking for bids and, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is an individual board member going to take this upon themselves, or is the superintendent going to carry out the daily operations to seek proposals for you?
Make your order to put it out for bid, and we'll have the companies that
I would like to
submit
put out
proposals,
bid
and we'll just
see what
interview them.
proposals are,
Mhm.
See what the
Yeah.
proposals include.
That'd probably be good.
So I'll make a motion to approve, to solicit proposals for forensic audit.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consideration and approval of food service raises. Mr. Talby.
Well, I'm going to kind of turn that over to Ms. Lowry and have her kind of walk us through the presentation that was put in our packet.
I'm moving over a little bit so I can
Thank
see
you.
everybody.
It's hard to do that.
Yes. Alicia and I put together a presentation for you just to kind of go over some specifics and to give you all the information that hopefully you'll need. And of course, we're here for any questions. But first, I do want to thank the board for allowing me to present this important information and acknowledging the food service deficiency and how that relates to food service employment in our community and in our surrounding counties. And that's where the overall wage comparability study came from. You know, this was part of it.
was we noticed there was some serious deficiencies amongst our county going to other counties around us. And even now with current wages at fast food, at other restaurants, at other businesses in town, we just aren't competitive anymore. So that's, I did want to thank you all for allowing me to bring this to you. So the factors that were considered and the you can go on to the next, please, Justin.
If you can, just maybe for everyone's sake, to kind of, and you may go and do this, so I apologize for interruption, but kind of brief us on how you receive your funding.
Yes,
so I think that's important for everyone to understand.
That was the next thing I was
Oh,
going to talk about.
Okay, sorry.
You got me. No, that's okay. Yeah, I was going to the next slide, and that first piece there is Food Service Proprietary Fund supports itself. So basically, a lot of people don't know or maybe don't understand that the Food Service Fund is its own standing operation. We do not get any funds from general fund. All of our funding comes from federal funds and from funds that we make ourselves in the business. You know, food service operations in schools is a business. So we get that from sales of a la carte meals, from catering, and then, like I said, from federal funds. So all of our funding is put back into our operation because it is a nonprofit operation, food service is. And so what that basically tells us is whatever money we do make, we need to put it back into our program. Whether that be put it back into our staff, if that means we have to purchase equipment, you know, whatever that means, that's where these monies need to reside, and that's what they need to be used for. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. So the next item on here is just what is this? What are we looking at with this wage comparability study, and why, what are the reasons for the study? So first off, we wanted to do the study for food service, and I know that there's other areas that are being worked on as well. We just kind of brought this one to you tonight. Districts of comparable size and surrounding districts that staff would leave us for. So that's what we're looking at. What are we comparing? That's what we're comparing, okay? So the reasons that we wanted to look at these items are following on your slide there. Food service cafeteria positions have historically been underpaid. Those of you who may have been here for a while probably know that. So that's a huge reason. Another reason is we want to maintain appropriate spread between positions, and so the wage comparability study let us see that and see where we are as far as how that compares between our positions. And then we also really are having tons of trouble with recruiting and retaining staff. So, the biggest question here is, without being at a competitive wage, how are we supposed to compete with the other counties around us and with other businesses in our own county and surrounding counties to not only recruit good staff, but then to keep the ones that we have?
And just to kind of piggyback off of what she has said is, the study overall is still incomplete at this point. We kind of put it on pause when we reset the staff, and then obviously with the changes that legislation made, SEEK dollars, that all of these districts have received additional monies in SEEK proposed decisions at the legislative level. All the districts around us are getting raises as well. So we kind of just said we need to put a pause on, we need to look at where we stand financially, and we need to look at what the other districts with their new salary tables going into next school year, because we know they're all gonna be different from where we really started the wage study this year. So we're gonna kind of back up, pull new salary tables come July 1, look at all new districts, and then look at what our decision is, because we're gonna later in this meeting talk about overall raises and what our financial, where we stand for the tentative budget. So there's more information to come budget-wise for us, raises for our district, and what our salary tables are gonna look like as well. And so instead of proceeding with this wage study and changing all of our tables going into next year, we recognize with the dollars that we have been given from the state through the SEEK funding that it's, and just the economy, how it's exploded in costs and everything for everybody who's personally as well as business. We need to look at supporting our staff, getting a higher wage to all of our staff members, and not picking and choosing with this wage study, because it will be picking and choosing based on how we compare to other districts. You are gonna start doing different things with different scales and different positions. And right now, we know the focus needs to be on the entire district. So that's kind of where we're at with the wage study.
I agree with you on that, but if food service is a standalone entity in business,
We're not talking about that. I'm not
so
trying to
right now we're
say-
just talking about food
Right.
service.
And that's what we are bringing tonight, and per your request, is this is the perfect place to start, because they are their own entity essentially within our district.
I
And
just
so-
don't want to muddy the water. SEEK has nothing to do with food service, correct?
Correct.
No, sir.
Okay.
We're just trying to talk about the wage study just a little bit in context of what we're discussing tonight as well. And then part of also with the wage study, one of the things that we looked at is we're seeing that consistent, our annual step raises, which I think is something we talked about several times on our salary tables, we're not consistent on our annual step raises, so that's another thing we've seen in the wage study, but we didn't necessarily correct all of that in the proposal we are giving you tonight for food service, because we know that that's gonna be an overall sense of that wage study, what comes out of that to apply to all the salary tables.
So the overall wage study, when it is completed, it will have no effect on food service, because food service will already have their proposal in front of us, correct?
Right, so the
Okay.
wage study and what we're proposing tonight with this wage study is kind of setting the groundwork for the entire study. So we're starting with food service, because it's the perfect place to start, with them being their own entity. But the decisions that went into this proposal and how we're proposing it is still based on wage study findings. So that's what we were just trying to recap for you right now. And this will set the groundwork of the proposals you'll get for all the other departments and scales as they're presented.
That will look similar to what
Yes.
you're
And I
presenting
think,
tonight.
yeah, as we move on through, I think that you'll start to see kind of what she's talking about as far as some of the consistent cost of living steps, are all messed up, is all I can say. That's the best way I know how to say it. It is all messed up. So that has definitely been looked at and needs to continue to be looked at across the board. So I do want to say another thing, just to kind of re-emphasize the need here. We've lost several staff since last year and even since December. And my staff has worked short all year long. And the saddest part about it all is that I don't even have people that are applying for positions. And, you know, how am I supposed to recruit and retain staff if I can't even get people to come and apply for a position because the wage that we offer, you know, is not appropriate. So we've had dedicated long-term staff leave us, and I hate that. But, you know, you can't blame somebody for having to go and do something else that takes care of their family. We also wanted to make sure that that when we go forward with this, again, kind of like Alicia said, this is kind of the first steps. And I think that along the line in the future, as well as with tonight, those steps have to be corrected. That's been an issue for years and years and years. So to get back to food service and kind of how we operate, Bill, you alluded to SEEK. We have nothing to do with SEEK. What we do, you can go to the next slide, Justin, is we base our staffing on what's called meals per labor hour. This is and I know this is a little complicated, and y'all are probably like, what in the world is she putting on here? But this is the easiest way for me to explain to you all how we calculate our hours and how we calculate how much staff we need. So what we do is KDE gives us this fancy little calculator, and we plug in all the average daily participation for each school. We plug in how much a la carte funds they've brought in, how much catering extra funds, or what I call non-program funds. That all gets calculated in here. And then you calculate how many hours I have at that school. We don't calculate people, we calculate hours in food service. So this meals per labor hour calculator gives me the number of hours that I really need to have at each school based on how many students we're feeding, how many meals we serve. So once you look at all that, then they give me a parameter that says, okay, once you put all your numbers in here, your meals per labor hour need to be between 14 and 18. So that's how I know once I do my calculation per school, then I know, hey, they're at 19. Gosh, they need somebody else. We need to calculate out some more hours. Or if they're at 13, below the threshold, then they don't need that many people. Maybe I can put one of those people over here at another school who needs somebody. So that's how we operate in food service as far as how we calculate our hours. And I think people get confused about that too sometimes. So I wanted to let you all know that that's how it operates in food service. Do y'all have any questions about that? Okay. So on to the next slide, please, Justin. And this is just our summary of projected personnel expense. And basically, it's self-explanatory. FY 2021, the actual end of year is lower due to us operating on less staff during COVID. I wanted to explain kind of why you might see some of these ups and downs in the chart. Increase of salaries and benefits from FY 2022 to the working budget to the 2023 draft budget. That was due to the need to offer full-time wages and benefits to recruit and hire staff. That was one way that I was able to even get some of the people that I got to work this school year, was by changing the way that I had operated in the past. People weren't going to come and work for us as a sub anymore for the minimal wage that we were offering. Sometimes when you throw some benefits and sick days and personal days and stuff in there, that entices them to come for the position. So that's why you see a little bit of difference there, because I had to adjust the way I was recruiting staff to come. Then the last decrease from 2023 draft budget to the 2023 tentative budget is due to decreasing the extra overtime and substitute budgets. And that's because I repurposed those to those full-time positions that I just told you about. So that's why you see a little bit of differences between those years and the working budget to the draft to the tentative. Okay.
What was the benefit so much higher in 2020? From 661 to, the floors.
I'll let Alicia speak to that one.
So part of that is budgeting, and when you have new staff come in, they have a probation period with their retirement, and so she's had a lot of turnover in staff. And my calculator, I have a projection system and then a software system that we use, and so it's pulling in active employees and it's recognizing when we're kind of plugging like a budgeted position versus an actual person, and we know that new person who is not being with the employees. She had some staff that was experienced, that has since retired, and so that was the wages and the comment on that is the biggest portion of that.
Tell us what a raise looks like to you, what you're proposing.
Okay, so here we are, the next slide, the proposal. So, and again, this proposal is all based on the wage comparability study. I did want you all to know that. This was not just picked out of our hats. It really was time spent looking at the study, okay? So the base pay scale for the cafeteria staff, the cook position with the starting rate of $11.32, which is where they're at right now, is in line with the wage study. So a starting wage at zero experience is $11.32, which is comparable to all the districts around us. The assistant managers would make 10% more than the base scale. The managers at the preschool and elementary school would make 20% more than the base scale. And the manager at intermediate and junior high school would be 22% more than the base scale. And the manager at the high school would be 24% more than the base scale. After the above starting rate of $11.32 at year zero, each annual step has been adjusted to at least a 1% annual step raise for cost of living. This percent could change with the completion of the district-wide range comparability study. That's kind of what Alicia was alluding to. What we have done is at least a 1% annual step on those
and
lines
depending what
that I
comes
just
back
talked
from
about.
that study,
So
you're going to
with the
adjust.
completion of the wage study, if we see certain areas that need to be tweaked, like say 5 years, 10 years, so on, it would have kind of a hike in a step at that point because you're kind of rewarding your staff for being
Longevity.
Yeah,
Yes.
get it.
As we see that play out with the complete wage study, that's the part of food service that might change in the future is that step piece.
Because like right now, we said at least 1%. When you guys redo the wage comparability, or when you look at the new wage comparability study, you might think, oh, well, it really needs to be 1.25, or maybe it needs to be 1.5, or maybe we want to do something else at 10 years, or maybe we want to do something else at 15 years. That's your all's decision how you end up deciding to do that scale. But what we have presented here is what I just said about at least the 1%, okay?
Understood.
So the new proposed base pay scale is the next page. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, this just gives you all the years and what it ends up changing up to. And then at the bottom, it reviews again the 10, 20, 22, and 24 based on the position, okay? And then the next page has the current pay scale. Like I said earlier, that has many issues that need to be corrected across the classified positions, which alludes back to what Alicia was saying. This proposal is a first step at correcting the food service pay scale. The scale has inequity moving from step to step each year, as well as inequity between the positions. So that's where we came up with going for the 10%, 20, 22, and 24. And it goes back to the wage study, which you're seeing here on the next slide here. So that shows you exactly the differences. And we gave you a 0, a 10, and a 27-year shot, so you could see how that increases over the 27 years at each position, and what the difference was between the current scale of the wage study and the new proposed scale.
Any questions or discussion?
Okay, the next slide is just, again, the food service budget, just to let you all know how well we're doing and that we can do this. I wanted you all to see our numbers, and so this is where we're at, and you can see there we're on like 3 or 4 lines down, percent food service. You can see over the years, we've stayed pretty consistent, like 43%. Of course, that was our COVID year, so I had less staff then. Oh, sorry, this year's. Okay, current, sorry. Tentative budget 22-23 was 43. And then we put in there what it would look like on top of this proposal if you guys decided to do a possible across-the-board raise at 3, 5, or 8% on top of this proposal. So you can see where those numbers are there. Even if you did the 3% or the 5%, we're still only at 45.7, and on to, for 5%, 46.6% of our budget used in personnel.
Is that sustainable?
Yes.
So
The next
across
page.
the board, just so I'm clear, across the board, are you, that proposal 3, 5, and 8%
Is on top of.
is on top of the
Yes.
proposal?
Yes.
Is that part
That's,
of the
these numbers
overall?
here are on top of the proposal.
Is that also, are you expecting to wait until the overall district wage comparison is done? Or are you
No, I
proposing
would-
one of those on the top proposal?
So the first
that
column
make
is where
sense?
she
Yeah.
stands in the budget that's gonna be presented to you tonight. The second column is the proposal she's presenting right now,
With the-
what it's
what
gonna
we've
cost.
seen.
With what you've seen.
With what you've just now seen.
And then the last
It's
3
gonna cost
columns.
an additional almost $37,000 on her budget to do
Right.
this new pay scale. Now, later tonight, when we talk about the tentative budget, part of that discussion is showing you what the general fund can sustain with a 3, 5, 8% overall raise to everyone in the school district, not just food service. And so we were just trying to preload if one of those decisions is made later tonight of looking at an overall raise for the entire district, this is just kind of what it would look like on her.
And then you wouldn't have a question, oh gosh, we just did this and now we've done this, can they sustain that? I wanted you to see that picture in advance, just so you wouldn't be
Going
questioning,
in.
So you're
questioning it later.
Right, you're comfortable with those percentages?
Yes, yes. Okay, so then the next page is again, just going again over our projected revenues. Just again to give you a picture of kind of what's been going on the last 2 or 3 years. And then the last page was the expenses, again, just to give you a picture of what we've been doing the last few years.
Those are the slides that were in the
Yeah, these two slides here, right, are in the food service section in her presentation. We just took those from hers and put them in here just to get, so you could sort of look at it and get it in your mind how it would work and how it looks.
So if you were to have some major equipment issues, you would still be able to just check.
Yes, I'm very comfortable with this proposal.
Any questions or discussion? Nice job, guys, for real. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the food service raises.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Motion carries. Thanks, guys. Okay, number 8, consider action and discussion of application of waiver to KDE. Ms. Christy Bush.
Good evening. Tonight you have before you the traditional waiver. We did this the first time last year, so this is our second time to make a projection of hopefully the virtual school. We have already talked about in the last meeting about getting our population of homeschool students. This is one way that can possibly happen if they choose to do a virtual program as a Clark County Public School student. This form has some fillable projections and some definitions and some assurances. The first part is the 3 boxes. Will we be a school, a program, or an academy? I don't see that our school choice number 1 is possible. It's not a principal, it's not its own building, and it doesn't have its own SBDM. So we have marked program and academy because we can do both under that situation. The assurances are the same as last year, except they have taken out the one about feeding students, how they didn't want us to feed them if they were virtual, and they have, gotten smart about their ways and have taken that out. We are allowed to feed them. We have marked K through 12th grade as all the grade levels that can be a virtual option. We are looking at a different type of program. A few of us watched in a Zoom meeting a program that has been used before Apex, and that was a long time even before me. And we have asked some veteran teachers what they thought about this particular program, and the very first thing out of their mouth was video lessons. And they loved example they gave was a math problem. The teacher was up there, even at home with the families, but there was a teacher going through and it was videoed, for the student and for the parent to look at. So that was a positive from 2 different buildings, and that was the very first comment they made. We have talked about an application process. There would be an application that they would fill out. We talked about possibly a type of assessment to see if they're on grade level. It is very important that they are studious, that they are on grade level, and it's very hard to have that intrinsic ability to know that you have work done without a teacher, behind you with a deadline. So those are some things that we need to discuss. But right now, we're just talking about the waiver itself to let KDE know that we plan on for the 2022-23 school year of having a virtual program.
Any questions?
It won't be that program.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that program.
Yeah, we
but
haven't made a decision yet on the program, but we have talked about structures, like facilitators over teachers, because when you're using a different type of platform that is more supportive to meet the needs of students, like she was talking about with the video lessons, then, like as a former high school math teacher, well, social studies may not have been, my wheelhouse. But as a facilitator, I would be able to go in, monitor, look at the progress monitoring from the system. How much is the student participating? Do I need to reach out and do a home visit? Do I need to ask the family to bring the student in? So you would have more of a facilitator model than you would an actual instructor teacher. And then that facilitator, regardless of your background, you would be able to go in and holistically look at where that child is at in the sequence of the programming and make sure that they're more successful. So we're exploring different programs, but we just want to make sure that we're covered. At first, we were like, we really just want to do our 5th grade through high school because developmentally appropriate, kindergarten is going to be difficult. And then we decided, we really want to offer this to all kids, and we're going to have to just really work very intentionally on how we want a very simple application. Our last application was like 8
6
pages.
or 7
It was
pages
a
long.
very long, laborious application, so we wanted that to be a much better process for our families. Again, there's going to be that onus for the family to come in when needed, hop on Zooms with a facilitator when needed, so you're going to have more of a wraparound approach with the virtual, and they don't have to say, I'm only doing 1st grade or I'm only doing 10th. It might be that I'm the facilitator that's going to monitor. And we've worked with districts that one facilitator can monitor 60 to 80 kids very easily. So it might be that you're doing K through 4, and you're a facilitator that's doing 5 through 8, and you're a facilitator that might do 9 through 12, depending on how many students that you actually have enrolled. So I think we're off to a good start on what our structure could look like. Landing on the actual platform. Again, we've got 3 different districts that we're talking with. They're all using 3 different programs, and we're trying to weigh which one we think would best meet the needs of our families here in Clark County.
Do you have a committee for virtual?
It's with Miss Bonfield, Miss Fithen, Miss Bush, myself, and then as we vet things, we're getting principal input. Some of it is actually from some of the teachers that have used these programs in the past, going back and asking them. Some of the ones that are new, we're setting up Zooms. Ms. Bonfield's got a Zoom. Is this one a Zoom? She set up a Zoom. She has a Zoom set up for one of the programs, and then we did 2 site visits, one in Jessamine County and one in Boone County. And we invited leaders to go with us for that too.
So none of the teachers that were actually hired to be virtual teachers that first year are involved in this? Like on the
Well,
year?
everybody was a virtual
We
teacher.
hired specific virtual teachers though.
So have we
That
asked
when
them?
they came back, these teachers stayed virtual.
I don't think we operated that way.
I know we did because my kid had a virtual teacher. Yeah, we did.
The first
The-
year?
The lower,
This-
the lower grade.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
Year
Okay.
past.
So not this year?
No, not this year.
No, not this year.
Okay, because I was like,
No,
that's
this year
not
was-
how we did this. Okay.
Yeah, no, before you.
Yeah.
We had, virtual teachers
Mhm.
that were brought in. And my kids had one that we hired from out of district that came here, and she's still in our district.
Mhm.
That could probably give some feedback.
Okay.
And then Baker had some as well.
Yeah, and we've talked to Mr. Mounts, and I think he has actually vetted some of the questions that we had with the virtual teacher, or the one that he thought was, I don't want to say names, but he had several people that he went to and shared information back with us. So
I just think that they would be able to give you all a lot of positive.
Yeah.
I mean, because they were the ones dealing with it and learning all the curves that year that it all was coming down. But yeah, I mean, they stayed virtual. They were your virtual teachers.
Yeah, and so we'll keep developing the actual structure and platform, but this is basically agreeing that we are that we can offer a virtual program, not a school, but a virtual program and academy or academy.
So, so at some point you'll come back and say, this is the program, this is how it's
This is
structured,
what it
this is
is.
how it's
Mhm.
gonna look.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, where are they gonna be located?
Facilitators will be used with what we have existing with like Home Hospital and some of the instructional specialists. So we are going to be repurposing some positions within our schools to use them to help with the virtual instruction.
We're just approving the application.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to get a clearer understanding this year, because last year.
Well, we also have really 3 good months to
Right.
plan
Last
this
year
and
we
plan
had
it
2
right.
weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we will do our very due diligence in making it a very good, successful year with that.
Yeah, I mean, you did the best you could with what you were handed last year.
And also, just so you know, we ended the year with 25 from K to 12 students. We started out with 60-ish, almost 70, 67 I think to be exact, and we ended the year with 25. So in your packet, you will just be signing for next year that we will do virtual with KDE, and then we will work on the process all summer long to include you and keep you updated.
Thank you. Any more discussions or questions? I'll make a motion to approve the application of waiver to KDE.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you. I'm gonna call a recess, and we'll be back at 8:10.
I submitted to the superintendent, she shared with you, and I think Alicia did the same. So for the sake of revisiting any of those topics, I'm happy to address anything that you'd like to talk about in those documents. But for the sake of the item that we're discussing at the moment, we just wanted to take an opportunity to allow the board to take pause and to strategically look at how you're investing your dollars in our education system, and that we're maximizing the investment and maximizing our potential for purchase. As you well know, using federal dollars requires a higher cost when we're hiring personnel and when we're hiring construction workers. We found out not long ago.
Hold up just a second. You do know we're on
The HVAC.
HVAC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we found out not long ago that the HVA system at Shearer, which the board has approved to as expenditure for ESSER funds, is costing us an additional $110,000 to $200,000 because we are using those federal funds for that purchase. So when we found that out, it was a big expenditure, and we just wanted to make sure that the board had the opportunity, while we still had the opportunity to pause and see if that's still how you wanted to pursue that investment using the ESSER funds, even though it's going to cost us more because they are federal. We could, other options for your consideration is you could use your bonding capacity. And I think, if I'm quoting correctly, we're about $22.5 million on bonding capacity. You could use your general fund, and that would save the money that you're spending extra for the HVAC project at Shearer, which is about a $2.4 million project with ESSER funds, and would be substantially less if we used either SEEK funds, general funds that were non-federal, non-restrictive in that regard. So we have a couple more projects in the district that we're using ESSER funds as well that will apply as well. We have a $110,000 bleacher project at Baker, about $170,000 project in the auditorium at Tentative that we're using ESSER funds. So basically this moment is for the board to assess whether you wanted to continue on the path that you're on, which would obviously be fine, but we wanted to make sure that we're advising you accurately and that you do have the opportunity to adjust your funding sources on either of these projects to the revision of BG1s. So having said that, how would you direct us to proceed?
So you said it's costing the district $2.4 million with ESSER. What's the other cost comparisons with the other funding?
Well, generally, we're finding in the construction market 10 to 20% increase using federal funds. So if you were to use that formula on 170, you're looking at what, 20 to 30,000 on one project, 10 to 20,000 on another project, up to 200,000 on your Shearer HVAC project. But now, granted, if you free up the ESSER funds and spend it on staffing, you're going to pay an extra higher cost because it costs you more for federal funds on staffing under federal funds. So it's not a complete 100% savings if you use the ESSER on staff.
So we had already approved to use ESSER for this project.
You have,
didn't we?
you have. It's on the BG1, but we have to come back with you probably several more times with revised BG1s, and you will have the opportunity to change that funding source if you so choose.
So what's recommendation?
I would recommend you use bonding capacity for the Shearer project specifically. That's about a $2.2 million project that still would leave you $20 million in your capacity for what other projects you're looking at or proceeding with at this point in time. And if the bids came in lower than what we're projecting in August for preschool, then you would have enough bonding to do both. If it didn't, then we'd be in the same boat we are now and looking at other funds to offset the additional costs of that preschool project.
Besides the preschool, what other projects are out there that we're looking to use bonds for?
Well, we have future projects that we have to look at in the next year or two. The roof at Shearer and one of the roof wings at Campbell.
Well, Phoenix was on the facilities.
Phoenix is your number one priority on your facility plan, and we haven't really addressed that to the capacity that we need to at this point in time either. We're about halfway through your 4-year plan, your facility plan. And both Phoenix Academy and your preschool are transitional schools as defined by KDE, so time's running out on doing something with those schools unless you change your facility plan, which I explained in the letter how you would proceed doing that if that was of interest to you.
I feel like we're always behind the 8 ball. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Did we not know that it would cost us more if we used the federal funds?
Well, we knew that it would cost us more. We didn't have a figure.
Have a feeling of how much more.
That's exactly correct. When they set up to 200,000, I said, whoa, you know, that's pretty significant. But no, we knew it was gonna cost us more using federal funds. It always does.
They always want their part, those feds.
With
That prevailing
construction,
wage.
it's the Davis-Beacon
Yeah.
Yes.
threshold, you know, we gotta pay those higher wages. So all the bids coming in for the Shear project are using those wage thresholds, which is the reason why they're that much higher.
You said we'll have opportunity to change this later on too.
You can revise the BG1 at a later point, but then there will be a point where you get
You won't be able to.
beyond the point of
Right.
return. You
Well-
have a small window.
I understand. I am just thoroughly, and I think I've expressed this, confused on the ESSER funding right now. On what we have, where it's going, what we're doing. I hate to say, do this with this on anything right now until we figure it all out. That's just me personally. When I go through and I look at everything, and I just wanna have a grasp of what we got, what we can use for this, what we can do for that, what we're gonna do with the preschool, what we're gonna do with Phoenix. I mean, right now, I feel like there's a whole lot of what ifs. And I think we need to figure out the what ifs before we start moving funding from this over if we need all the funding we can for preschool and Phoenix or whatever we're doing. That's just my opinion.
I feel similar. With that being said, do you think table this to the next meeting?
I don't think you can.
Can we?
I think you have, that's why we're in front of you today, to give you an opportunity to consider this. It's not something that has to be decided today.
Okay.
But when would you-
We'll have another opportunity to change that if you so choose.
I mean, I need to know,
The project's not going to stop,
That's correct.
okay?
yeah, I don't wanna hold
Just
anybody up,
the
yeah.
funding source. I just wanna make sure that I'm understanding correctly.
I
that
think
the-
you are understanding
The
correctly.
project is going to continue, we can determine how to pay for it at a later date.
That's true, but there is a point in which, when the bids come in from the contractors, they give your bids.
Right.
And you can't say, all right, give us another bid, you know, taking away Davis-Bacon, that's probably not gonna work for you. So there is a small window. We're getting ready to start this Shear project here in the next month or so. So there's a very small window. You might have one more board meeting to do this, but there's a small window if you really wanna change the funding source on this project. Our goal today is just to give you an opportunity to change that if you so chose. We're not really, and you asked my recommendation, that is my recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm fine going either way, really.
Well, I wrote your recommendation down, and I mean, and it could be my fault on the whole trying to figure out the ESSER funding and all that. Like, the information we're getting, I look at it and I'm just like, what?
Right, well,
I still ain't got any better understanding of where it's going. Like, I don't know. And I mean, I called Molly the other day and was like, could you please just tell me, where did this go? And she did. She explained a lot of it, but I've gotta get my head wrapped around before I can say, Donald, I think you should do this.
right, well, there is a skill set in how to invest your dollars.
Right.
To get the maximum gain. You know, back in my earlier years, I would place, I would hire people on the general fund as opposed to the seed formulas to maximize the amount of money I had to hire people.
Right.
You know, strategically, you
move it.
choose what you buy.
Yeah.
But
By the
can the
fund.
general fund sustain it? I mean, take on this 2.1 million?
Well, if it reduced you salaries of that same amount, then it'd be a wash for you.
Right. Okay.
It's not a complete loss, it's a
It's a trade-off.
substitution
Is it
Right, and you strategically look at how you're investing, and maximize your investment potential.
That's where I'm having trouble, is the strategic part. I've
Right.
gotta get myself wrapped around on.
Well, I don't think we can make a decision, or I shouldn't speak for us. For me, I can't make a decision until I go through the finance update. This was kind of in front of the finance update. I
Yeah.
need to have a better understanding of the finance update before I make a decision on what I would agree to on how to pursue paying for the HVAC.
I understand.
If we table this till the next meeting, does that give you enough time? Does that keep us within a window that we're safe to
I
switch
will
the
make sure
funding?
the contractors are aware that this is still undecided, the funding source is still undecided, and we may go under a different route.
Perfect, thank you. I'm gonna make a motion to table, item number 9 until the next scheduled meeting in June.
I make a motion to table it.
She just made the motion.
Did you make it? I thought you said you needed to make a motion.
So you can second.
I'll second your motion.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, 5-0. Number 10, consider action, discussion, and next steps on district facilities. Mr. Sapp.
Again, just an opportunity to put in front of the board where we're at with regard to our investments with facilities. Our preschool program is still on track to go to bid in August. We just discovered last week that project bid in Scott County for $540 per square foot, their high school. The last quote that was given to you, estimating our preschool, was estimated at $400 per square foot, which was $20.9 million. So if we can anticipate in August, if the rate is 500, then you're at almost 23 million. And your bonding capacity is 22.5. So I just wanted to make sure the board is alerted to that projection and that possibility. If it comes in at 540, like Scott County's high school is at, you'll be over 23 million, 23 and a half in that ballpark. So to continue with that project, we'll have to find a lot more money. So that's a reality. Construction world is very volatile at this point. Even with the HVAC project at Shear, we've gone up considerably just in the time that we've started with the Daikin equipment has gone up 40% since the time that we started initiating this BG1. So the market's moving fast and it's moving in the wrong direction and it's not showing any indication of decline. So in August, I'm fully expecting the bid to come in at 500 or more. There's no reason not to expect that. And they only had one bidder.
Gets better and better.
Other counties around us are tabling their projects because they're hoping the markets will come down, but there's no guarantee in that either. But I do know that we started talking to the board with a project that was at about 9.3 million, now we're at 23. And that was over a very short period of time.
Do you think it would do us some good as a board? I know we've talked about this before, to maybe have a work session or a special call meeting with all the players, the Lincoln that does our bonding, architects, John Hagan, all those people, and just kind of really get a grasp on it.
That's what May 10th was set up for, so I think it would be imperative that we reschedule that work session.
Anybody want to get a calendar out?
And I sent you all some dates with Dr. Carter. So the 21st, 22nd, 23rd are some available dates. If
I'll let you know as soon as I can.
yeah,
I can't do that week.
of June.
I can't do the last 2 weeks of June, actually.
I brought his email. Let me see what other. He has some Fridays. And you don't have to do it on those days. I was just trying to kill two birds with one stone. June 10th, June 17th through 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. But again, that 10th, 17th, and 24th are Fridays.
And that's his availability.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We don't have to do this one on that day. This could.
Right. We can do them separately. I was just trying to avoid
No, I get it.
multiple meetings.
Another meeting.
What's
I'm
good?
I'm good with anything other than the second week of June.
Which is the 10th.
Sixth to the 10th. I'm out.
And Megan's out the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So then we've got the 13th through the 17th.
And what days did you say he could do?
He can do June 17th, but that's a Friday.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with Fridays, so.
Could you come in early?
I said I don't have a problem with Fridays.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, we could do a day, we could
Yeah.
do evening, we could do midday. And
What about you?
I
Well,
don't
you don't
know
know. Okay.
And I have to be here. Or we can't do it.
Do you feel like you'd be safe to do like maybe if we just like bumped it up a little bit from the regular like 6:30 start point?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, as soon as I can find out, I mean, you all can go on and schedule it and we can just go from there.
we talked about Zoom.
Yeah.
So-
Can I do Zoom?
You can do Zoom. Because if Miss Baker, he's the one who definitely has to be present.
Okay.
But if Miss Baker couldn't be here the other week, he was going to let her Zoom in. So you could Zoom in for the capstone.
Okay. Can we do the 17th then?
I'm available. I'm
What
boring.
time?
Whatever works for you all.
You want to do like 4:30? If we're gonna have. Oh, did you say you work or that
Yeah,
works?
no, so that works.
We have to speak up.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
that will work.
That will work.
Thank you, Mr. Talby.
I'm out of town on the 17th.
What?
Donald, you let us go
You
through
let us
all
know
that.
Talking about you.
Oh,
It's not
God.
all about you right now.
I thought about saying nothing, but I'll be in Massachusetts. I'm sorry.
No, this meeting, that's not the same meeting.
It's the capstone, right? That's
No,
what
I thought we were wrapping the architects.
Yeah.
to
Everything
do
into
with all
this because
that.
the
So it's
capstone
about
is
you.
kind of
Yeah.
sort.
I
of
just
thing.
somebody-
Could you
I thought
Zoom
you said it
in
was gonna be two
or
different meetings.
Yeah.
send Billy? Because
Yeah.
really we're going to rely on Mr. Codell, Mr. Brookshire,
I'll zoom in.
okay. So you can,
I can do
we
that.
can Zoom Mr. Stump in for the
Okay.
17th.
At 4:30. Right?
Does that go with y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How long do you want to
Yeah, I was
have
gonna
the construction time? It might be easier to do the capstone first,
First.
because I can really control how long we spend on that.
Yes.
Like give it an hour and then say 5:30.
Rolls over, or it's gonna be longer. That's what I was kinda worried
Yeah.
about.
Can we say like 5:45? That way, in case we need to go over anything, we can do 4:30 for capstone, and then we'll build the agenda so that they know they don't have to come right at
At that
4:30.
time.
It'll just still be one meeting, but we'll start with capstone, and then I'll text Mr. Stump so you would know. You would hop on around 5:45, 6 o'clock at the latest. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Is this a vacation day?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
Going to Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, nice.
Send Billy.
Yeah.
We have faith
But
in
I'll
Billy.
zoom in. This is important to me too, so I'll zoom in. I'll have Billy come
I didn't
too.
realize it was vacation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Mr. Dameron can do this. And we will
I'm
have
good
our,
with zooming in.
we're good at having our pre-meetings with construction and contractors before we get everything together.
Okay, I'll bring a souvenir back.
We'll do that. Mr. Dameron will come to that meeting and he will come to our work session.
Okay,
And
good.
you're gonna enjoy your trip.
Thank
You're
you.
really a
Okay.
sell.
You're not on vacation.
Took them
right?
all.
I know. Where did you say you're going?
Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Okay. So I make a motion that I find what I was writing on. Table number 10. Consider action and discussion and next steps on district facilities plan to a special called meeting on the 17th of June at 4:30. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Stunt. Okay, 11 is tabled. So number 12, student learning and instruction services. Consider action and discussion of academic suite update. Ms. Bonfield, Ms. Pickens.
All right, we have had a lot going on in the academic suite over this last month. One thing that I will talk about, and then I'm going to let Ms. Fithin come up and talk about our Cardinal Connections Academy and Kentucky Summative Assessment. So for the month of May, this whole year we have met as a district at each school for our Cardinal leads. So for May, we know the craziness of the year and all of that. We didn't want to pull administrators out of their buildings, so we are going to them, and we're just spending some time, kind of as a reflection time, talking to our building administrators and leaders, teacher teams, about the initiatives we've put forth this year, what we're doing, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and just getting feedback from each of them. And so that's what we're doing. That's part of the agenda that you'll see from the Cardinal Leads that we're doing. That's just individually. And then we have our Kentucky Summative Assessment. We have a few students left to test, and then we're going to be finished with that. And then I'm going to let Ms. Fitton come up.
Thank you.
We are very excited to announce the launch of our Cardinal Connections Academy. So that is our in-house professional development academy that we've been talking about, preparing for. And this week we've actually launched it. We started Monday training some of the schools. We're using the Power Schools platform, which you all have been introduced to prior. It is a slow rollout. And we're using professional learning, the professional learning component of Power Schools to release all of our professional development sessions to our teachers. So Power Schools is the platform in which all of our teachers can view the course catalog, sign up for professional development. It is going to track their hours, and that's just our platform to house everything and keep up with it. As far as the academy, we have currently 235 different courses and sessions that we are offering to our certified staff, so we're super excited about that. We have a variety of different sessions, including technology, social emotional learning, instructional practices, instructional content, just a variety of needs that have been expressed from our teachers. We've taken those needs and then we've built the course catalog to meet what they are asking professional development on. We have a host of presenters. Some of those are in-house. So some of our teachers, counselors, directors, principals, administrators, teacher leaders, they're doing some of our in-house professional development. And then we also have other staff coming in from CKEC, KDEC, KDE, and some other organizations to help with our professional development. So our teachers are learning what the catalog has to offer, and we have a lot of those courses up here. That's just a 52-page course document of all the different courses that we offer. Our staff are required to obtain 12 of their 24 hours from the Cardinal Connections Academy. Of those 12, 9 of those have been established and are required so that every employee in the district is hearing that same language and we're having that unity across the board. Those required courses are an MTSS Foundations course, an MTSS Academic and Behavior District course, and then a Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging 3-hour course. The remaining 3, then they can choose whatever course that they would like to do. So that's 12 of their 24 hours. The remaining 12 is up to the building administration. They can decide to do some of that in their own school buildings. They can choose to split that and say, we want you to get 6 more hours from the academy, and then we'll do 6 in-house. And then it's tailored by school. A lot of times at the high school, they have to get AP training and stuff like that at different times throughout the school year and in the summer. So it's being tailored for each school to work with those additional 12 hours. Do you all have any questions?
So the
We're super
Power
excited
Schools-
about it.
The Power
That's
School
cool.
platform is only for certified staff.
No, it is a platform that will house many different components, and I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about this. It's going to be our records, our HR component, time
We
clock.
approved it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you remember, we approved it in a meeting, remember?
I understand.
Okay.
But I guess what I was getting to is, what are we doing for our classified, for professional development? Are we using this program as well?
Well, the program is just the platform to kind of track everything. All of the sessions are in person. Our classified staff do not have the requirement of 24-hour professional development. We have talked about offering some stuff throughout the year to help just facilitate learning across the board for all employees, but it's not a requirement for our classified staff.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're offering classified staff the opportunity for personal development if they so choose.
And they can come at any time, and actually that was a question asked by a building leader today. So anybody can attend these. It doesn't have to be a certified position. Classified, if any of them would like to come to any of the trainings that we offer, they are more than welcome to.
Cool.
Has that been communicated to them?
It's slowly rolling out, so
Okay.
it was today to one of our building leaders. I'm currently going to each school to train on the Cardinal Connections Academy, just what we are offering, how to register. I trained one school yesterday, one this afternoon. The remaining schools will be this Friday and Tuesday.
Thank you.
And one of the things I will say, and then I'll be done, but is the input we have gotten from building leaders. So it's been one of those things that it's a collaborative, this whole Cardinal Connections Academy. I know meeting with several of the principals, they have PD committees. And so they've heard the needs from the teachers, and then we've been able to take that into this Cardinal Connections Academy. So that has really been beneficial just to everybody across the district, making sure we're doing that.
So for classified staff, do you have a plan of how you would pay them?
Currently, what we've talked about, it would just be voluntary if they chose to come to the Cardinal Connections Academy.
Because
Yes. Because it's not a requirement, it'd just be optional if they wanted to come and participate.
But we also have other options that we're exploring too on, I keep calling it Loom. Matt's a pro at it, Screencastify. So he and Mr. Kaysen has purchased Screencastify where we can actually take some of the live sessions, we can create PowerPoints, do some voiceovers, so then staff could watch it, and they can get credit that way. But the pay is definitely something we need to be mindful of with classified staff. But we also want to give them opportunities. Like, for example, with NTI days, we started pulling our bus drivers into our Cardinal Lead meetings.
So they may not get it before school starts,
Yes.
they may get it throughout
So
the
we
year.
will try to have things embedded, and our bus drivers are a great way because of how their schedule just naturally is. It's almost like they have time that kind of builds up because we commit a certain hour, daily hour for them. So then over the course of the week or the course over 2 weeks, you could ask them to come in as part of their required time, but you're going to just say from this time to this time is going to be a meeting. So those are some things that Mr. Stump will work through, but they were extremely wonderful about coming into our Cardinal Leads meetings where we started talking about behavior on buses and how does that translate into the school, how they need more support from principals, just a variety of things that really doesn't look that much differently from a teacher's perspective than it does from a bus driver's perspective. So, but it may not just be at this time. It will be things that we can circulate back through and make sure that we can include custodians. And Miss Lowry's already got some things that she wants to take from the Cardinal Connection Academy and share with food service staff, but it will be again during her time that she builds in. So it's not getting us into that situation where you've got to pay people extra, but you also want to respect their time and make sure that they get to participate.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And we've had some other districts that have reached out to us wanting to send some people over. So I'm excited about another opportunity to partner with other districts.
Number 13, consider action and discussion of the 22-23 tentative budget. Ms. Ellis.
Alright, so hopefully you've had a chance to look through the PowerPoint. And I'll hit highlights as best as I can. So just kind of starting off, I just want to, this is a snapshot, in time of where we're starting at, where we're sitting and trying to project the future. And it is a projection. And so this is our second step in our budgeting process that I have to submit to the state by May 30th. And this is what we'll start our school year with. And then we have a chance to adjust that by September. So you've got a summary of all of the funds that go into our budget right there, and where we've stood at actuals working this year, then draft and tentative. And then the big things that have changed since the draft budget is, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is the legislation decisions that were made in regards to how they were funding SEEK. That is actually bringing $1.2 million more into our budget than we had planned at the draft level with those changes. And there's a summary of how those changes are listed right there. I'm not going to go into detail unless you all have questions, because that's right there in front of you of how it's funded. Things to be mindful of just going forward though, we are going to increase revenue next year because we're still frozen at a great ADA level of 18-19, but we have seen continued declining enrollment since then. And so the following year of 23-24, we're actually going to see a decrease in seats. So we need to keep that in mind going forward, is yes, next year we have an influx of revenue, but the following year we're going to have a decrease of revenue. Okay?
Unless we get our enrollment numbers up.
Unless we get our enrollment numbers up. But where we're sitting right now and projecting, we're looking at 1.2 increase next year and then a 1.5 decrease the following year. So I just want to forethink too on some of our decisions that we're making and how that affects our budget. The next slide is just from beginning balance of what we're rolling over to what we're projecting for the year, making up a budget of almost $62 million for next year for our general fund. And we're projecting $8 million in beginning balance. That is looking at contingency right now and saying we're not really going to spend any more out of contingency, so we're rolling all of that over because we're just barely over $8 million right now. Any questions in the revenue area of general fund? So going into expenditures, the big things that have changed from the draft budget level is we did the staffing changes because the draft budget was reflecting what you all were presented in April of that staffing allocation. And at that meeting, we decided to basically keep the same staff we have this year. So putting all of those people back into our budget, what that has done is added almost $1.3 million into the budget. So just so you all could see what that looked like without using any federal dollars or ESSER dollars. So at the draft level, we still had 7 people over on ESSER funds because we were trying to weed those people back off, but we still had those people over there. And we were actually non-renewing some staff to get us kind of more in line with our state numbers of ratios. And so that's what was presented at the draft level. Now, with that reset, I've listed out the positions that we basically are keeping. It was 24.5 teachers, 19 instructional age, and then 4 office staff, essentially secretaries. And so putting all of those people back into our budget, it added $1.3 million back to our general fund. So that freed up those ESSER dollars too, because I just put them all back in general fund. So I just want to try to make that clear. So you got step raises on that right now is what's built into the budget. And then we had a few changes in our operating side of stuff just because of the large increase of costs in the economy right now. Fuel being one of the biggest. We increased fuel, and then utilities have, the rates are skyrocketing there because they're trying to compensate for costs as well. So that passes on to us. So increasing that, they increased the budget $335,000 on the operational side as well. Things that we haven't necessarily put in the budget that's kind of come to light since we were finishing up this budget is continued Chromebook one-to-one replacement plan. Mr. Payson presented Dr. McComas with that. And so we got to think about that. That's about $300,000 a year that we need to add in at the working budget side, whether we're going to try to commit some ESSER dollars to that since we do have those funds available right now, or if we're going to do that in general fund. That is something that we're going to have to sustain out of general fund in the future. And then also, Dr. McComas will speak to this later, but one of the things that we're trying to talk about with raises and trying to get that wage to our staff up is we're also trying to look at attendance incentives. So there's something we're going to kind of add into that mix of adding incentives to our staff, because that's one of the areas we've struggled with is subs, staff not coming to work, and it's increased our sub budget. So if we can give an award to our staff to show up to work, and it frees up that bucket of money too for subs. So it's kind of a
And the attendance incentive, so like when she goes through the recommendation for the overall raise, because just kind of what she was talking about when she was up here with Miss Lowry, we're kind of doing this in reverse of what we originally thought. Originally, we thought we would be able to really look at that wage comparability study, first adjust individual individual pay scales to make them competitive, and then we would layer on an overall raise. So once we did the reset, gave us an opportunity to go back and look if that was the best plan. So now we've paused finishing the wage comparability study, so that competitive wage will really come into play, not for next year, but we'll be doing that study next year, so that'll be the year after. So she's gonna recommend an overall raise to you all, and she's got those planned out, so then you can decide. But the beauty of an attendance incentive is similar to like the COVID incentive that you all had in place before I came. It's a controlled amount of money. So you're not giving a raise that's gonna then need to be maintained and sustainable through recurring revenue. This will be something you can pilot, and hopefully what we anticipate seeing is that it's going to pull out, it's gonna save you on sub money, because people are gonna want to come to work, and we have a structure set in place that Dr. Parrish has been working on that will kind of say, it's not even like, oh, well, if I've, broke my leg and I'm out of it, so why bother? It's like a quarter, and then like an overall attendance incentive. So we're still working through some of those things, again, looking at some other districts. But that would be another way to layer in additional money for a family, an employee going home and buying gas and going to the grocery store and doing all these other things with a fixed amount of money instead of tying it to the pay scale right away. So we were also trying to get creative with some of those things. So we will finish fleshing that out and hope to have that in more detail for the June meeting. But just to let you know that that's something else that we're working on.
Slide 9 is a summary of expenditures. And then we kind of, not that I'm glossing over that, but that's just the overall, each category of expenditures and how that fell out in the budget with budgeting. Slide 10 is just kind of a reminder from the draft budget. So this is an actual slide from our draft budget that was showing at that time our excess funds. And again, at that point was with the staffing that had been recommended in April. So at that point we had the $1 million. And so if you flip over to slide 11, adding that staff back in, and with the revenue increase that we've had in the slight expenditure on the operational side, we still have $592,000 excess funding right now for next school year FY23. So I did kind of a little summary of how we got to that number from draft to now. And then slide 12 is just kind of a summary of our contingency. So how we have budgeted everything out, we're looking at a contingency of the 8.5, which is including that excess of the 592 I just discussed, and that's putting us at a 12.9%. Just kind of benchmark things. One, it's required by the state that we have 2%, recommended 5% within that KRS. OEA has actually done a study, and they actually recommend 10%. And then accounting standards, which is obviously what I was trained on in college and have learned and is my profession, you're supposed to have 3 months of operating expenditures on hand. And for us, that's roughly a 15% contingency, and we're sitting at 12.9. So we're kind of right at that mark of having that cushion that if worst case scenario, if we have no revenue coming in, we can cover 3 months of expenditures. We're right on the borderline there. So like this is the kind of the comfort level of the contingency that our district needs to be at, is right at that 8 million. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. The next is just payroll trends and benchmarks. Typically the area like 75 to 80% is where you're recommended as a healthy budget for your payroll. So personnel is about 75 to 80, and then the rest you use for operations. Most districts, school districts surrounding us, and us included, 80 to 85%. And then once you kind of get over 85% and higher, you're kind of getting dangerous in your personnel area, because you're not leaving yourself enough room for operations at that point. So you're a little staff heavy at that point. And just kind of, and what we were trying to project in April and show you is by reducing your staff and keeping your percentage, you can reduce the number of the people you have and increase your wages, which is what we were trying to prepare in the draft budget coming into this budgeting cycle, was to prepare for raises, because that was gonna be a recommendation with the wage study, overall raises, individual raises with the salary tables based on what the wage study showed. So that was kind of a progression of the staffing of trying to get there. So that's what we were trying to just depict here, that high number of positions, you have lower salaries, lower number of positions, you can have higher salaries.
Alicia, do you know off the top of your head what the percentage of the budget is?
Our percentage?
Salaries?
So,
They're on
where
the
we
next
set at the draft budget level was 78% with the staffing allocation that was recommended in April.
The one that,
Yeah, we
So
knew
flip
you
over
were
to
gonna ask
slide
that, Ms.
14.
Considine.
So our 21 school year, we ended with our staffing paying out 83% of our budget on personnel. Okay, so our 21 school year that we finalized was 83% in personnel. So you're kind of in that mid-range. What I said, we're 80 to 85, we were at 83. The working budget that we came into this year with, we were almost 79%, and that was with keeping the amount of staff we kept on general fund, but peeling off those 19 positions we put on ESSER. So had those 19 positions still been in general fund, we would be closer to that 85% mark. We're down to the 79% mark because 19 positions are sitting over here on federal funds, and we're only looking at general fund dollars right now. So draft budget and tentative budget, draft budget was still the same at 78%, because basically those positions sitting over here on ESSERs, we were basically kind of non-renewing and not bringing back into the allocation. Even though we were bringing some back, we weren't bringing them all back, and it was keeping us at that 78, 79% level. Now at the tentative level, with all the positions we put back in, we're right at 80% right now. Okay, so we're right on that borderline. It's still not to the dangerous side right now, even bringing all of that staff back, we're right on. But it does kind of limit you at that point of raising salaries, because you have this number of staff, because you're kind of already in that bucket of that stage. Does that answer your question, Ms. Considine? So the next slide is the potential for raises. And so the discussion that we want to have is, right now we have an excess of $592,000. The ESSER grant, the way we have budgeted and committed funds, there is $2.7 million available that's basically not committed right now. So in my presentation write-up that was given that we were going to talk about at May 10th, we had $1.2 million available uncommitted in our ARP ESSER funds at this point, that we were still trying to just kind of figure out what is best for the district and what do we need to do. And things that are committed are like $3.5 million to the one-time salary incentive that we gave. That's, you know, part of the ARP ESSER. You've got your district substitutes, designated substitutes. You've got a lot of programming that we bought for the academics. So those are things that are in GMAP. Ms. Considine's familiar with GMAP. You have to put a plan in GMAP and tell the state how you're going to spend your dollars. So we've put all that in GMAP except for $1.2 million. Now that does not mean the whole $25 million of all these ESSER monies that we have gotten is spent. It is not spent, but it has been committed in GMAP to the state saying we're going to spend it on these things. And then we have put those appropriate budgets in our Munis software system to be able to spend those as they come down. Right now, the two largest expenditures on our ESSER grants are $3.5 million for the one-time salary incentive, and we've got $2.5 earmarked for the sheer HVAC project. So those are your two largest expenditures, and the rest of it is budgeted out with COVID stuff that we had at the beginning of, you know, when we got the monies. We spent a lot on COVID supplies and PPE gear and all this kind of, you know, sanitizer and supply. We did summer school. We did a very large 3-week summer school program that, you know, that paid quite a bit out of the ESSER funds. So, I mean, some of it's been spent. There's a large portion of it unspent at this point, but committed. So uncommitted is 2.7, okay? So that's what you have available for attendance incentives that we've talked about, possibly to free up general fund dollars if we do raises, to put some staff back over on ESSER, because we did pull that staff off. things to keep in mind with going forward, again, budgets are projections and a snapshot in time, and anytime you make changes on the general fund, you're also making changes to grant funds, Becky's food service funds. It's not just affecting staff on general fund. When you do salary table, anything, it's all the different funds that pay those people. And we still have future wage study recommendations to bring to you, so that's more money at some point that we're gonna be asking the board to increase wages with that.
So the 1.5 million that was committed for staffing, that's allocated for staffing, that was put back into the budget,
Yeah,
correct?
so
So that's
right
where you're
now-
coming up with the 2.7.
Yeah, so you were provided this, I believe. And this is every single one, this is the GMAP
Yep.
and the plan of how we were budgeting all of these monies. And so as you flip through, you'll see zeros at the end of most of them because we've, in GMAP, committed to something. And then one of them, the ARP ESSER one, you see that there was 1.2 million available that, down here at the bottom, that we hadn't spent on anything. So that's the initial $1,250,430,000, okay? So 1.5 you'll find in here committed to FY23 and FY24 staffing allocations. So I committed 1.5, even though that's not spent, it's just a budget number committed at this point. So pulling that back out, it's still showing in GMAP as 1.5 committed because I haven't adjusted GMAP. But when you add those two together, that's where I'm coming up with the 2.7.
Because you took the 1.5 and put it back in.
I put it, right now, we've put those staff members that we were projecting would be paid on ESSER back in general fund at the moment.
Okay.
Until we make any further decisions with staffing. So that's
how
where we're
do we
coming up with
know
2.7.
On that piece of paper, what's really been spent and what's just committed?
Well, right now, this is your commitment. So this is just showing what we've committed our funds to. And then you should have gotten, thought I had it in front of me. This, which is the Munis plan. And so the budgets correlate to the what we've committed, and then you have year-to-date expenditures and then the available column that shows what's still available in ESSER funds, meaning we've not spent it yet. But as far as like line item out right here, I'd have to go through and just tell you specifically, like, yes, I know that's been paid, no, that hasn't been paid, that's committed.
When did we get that, the Munis? Did you just send that one?
This
No.
is one that just got put in there today for the
Well,
request of an
but
updated one.
that's an updated one.
But you should
Slight,
have gotten
slight
one-
number changes, but you
So
all.
it's not too different, but they're, let me find those.
Yeah, and I
reports
had
with
those in your
dates.
other drive, and I sent them by email because I wasn't sure how they were attaching. So
So
you've
we-
had those
So
for a few
initially
weeks.
on May 4th, I printed
Mhm.
the
Yes, we
first one, and then the one that came today is basically an update. And that's kind of like the summary of the codes. And then Ms. Considine asked for a detailed, which was like 400 and something pages. Yes, it's quite extensive. So two different reports of that were sent, and I'll just tell you, there is this quirky little button in Munis called Roll to a Major Project. And so the first report you all got had this nice little undefined
Yes, that's what I was like,
project
what's the
listed up
undefined
here,
project?
which I apologize for that I did not catch that, but it had a check mark on roll to the major, and the only time we assign a major project code is when you have to split out a budget code. So example, ARP ESSER is split into two. You have a 473G and a 473GL for the learning loss piece, and then that rolls up to 473G. But if it doesn't split, you don't put in a major project, so, and that's when it
just
falls out as the undefined because there was no major project for it to roll to. So I reran that report. So that was May 5th. I reran the report on May 9th after Ms. Considine asked, well, what does that mean? And then I realized it was on there, so I apologize. And it broke it back out to each of the, without having it rolling. So I apologize for that oversight on my part.
Yeah, it's like a detail.
But that, those Munis reports are not the most friendly to read. They really are not. I would be more than happy to sit down with any of you all at any point if you want to come in and we can line item it out and walk through it together, because it's not friendly to read.
It's not.
It's not. I wish it was. It's not my favorite system, but we are mandated by the state to use it, so I don't really have a choice.
Yeah, so that was a conversation Miss Ellis and I had, like, not only can you come in one at a time, but two of you could come in and, you know, if everybody wanted to hear it, then we can even do that, rotating through some like budget items every month where you've got separate from, you know, some from our other like agenda meetings. But you can come in, sit down with Miss Ellis. She can send the information out ahead of time so you can have it. And then if you want to come in and go through questions, Mr. Talby always asks about like some of the APs where we get details and get them back. So it would give us an opportunity to be prepared for you, come in, and we can, you know, go through budgets, POs, pay apps, those types of things.
So that far right column in the ESSER ledger, I'll just call it the ledger, that is percent used or that we've allocated so much for a project. Shouldn't all those, if it's been used, not be over 100%? How is it possible to have 2,621% spent on a line item that was on a line item?
Yeah, so do you see the very top line item that only has 0.4% spent? It's because the bulk of the budget is sitting there instead of broken out individually to the payroll codes. So we've broken out, so when you look at the report, anything above an 0300 is payroll. So 0100s and 0200s is your salaries and your benefits. And right now, until we knew exactly where it was being spent as far as payroll, it's kind of just being the placeholder in the 0110 up there at the top. So you see there's 5.8 million sitting up there in payroll on that first slide there of your 473G. Instead of breaking it out into, because we didn't know what the one-time salary necessarily was going to cost exactly. So until the year ended and I knew what that was going to cost, we just left the budget sitting up there at the top, and then we would reallocate the budget once we knew what the actual expenditures were. So your overall payroll is not overspent by 2,000 something percent. It's just in benefit wise, on GMAP you don't have to break it down into the benefits. You really just only put it in the top code. So when you're looking at this, you're seeing there's a code assigned of what object code it's paid out of, and it's just listing 0110 for $3.5 million for the salary benefits. But when you go correlate it to how we actually have to pay it out of payroll, it's out of actually 0113, which is the stipend code, and I put a B on it so we knew it was the word I'm not supposed to say, one-time salary incentive, to kind of keep it separate on our schedule that we knew that's what that was. And then you have all the Medicare and FICA and retirement and unemployment and workers' comp. There's all kinds of benefits you got to put on top of that. We just don't break them out budget-wise specifically. Does that kind of answer some of the confusion maybe of the report?
Yeah, I guess the other question is, let me get back to is what, 1.2, is that correct? On what's not been identified?
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what has been, so the items that have been identified, this is what makes it difficult for me. The items that has been identified that we're gonna spend money on, you know, what's the total amount that's still available on those items? Because we can't tell if those percentages aren't correct.
Well,
You know, that we
Look at
spent,
your available budget. It should be accurate.
that's not accurate.
The payroll is the only ones over as the far available budget that's not accurate, if that's what you're saying as far as accuracy. The 0300s and down for the items, not payroll, but the other items that are listed in your commitment of your GMAP have been put specifically in the code listed over here. And that is the true available balance, even though it's been committed in GMAP, that is the true available balance in the other categories. It's just the payroll section's kind of all rolled up into the one code at the top.
So if I'm looking at this right, there's still $400,000 available in the budget in ESSER for fund transfers?
Yes, so that specific bucket of money, you'll see the budget's 2.5, that's your shear HVAC project. So that's the shear, and right now our BG was for 2.1 million. So we set aside 2.5 knowing costs are exploding. So we set aside in the ESSER budget 2.5, but what we actually committed was 2.1 on our BG. So we've transferred out 2.1 based on that BG approval and the decision of the board, even though we've stood here tonight and said change maybe the funding source. We've actually funded the construction project $2.1 2.1 million out of this project. So yes, there's 400,000 available, because we've not really committed that on the BG yet, even though we projected just kind of setting it aside in the ESSER funds.
I think I might be coming in to see.
I think that would be
Please,
great.
let's set up a meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be
I
great.
would
I mean,
love
I'm
to
a
set up a
county
meeting.
now, and it's just hard to,
It
you know,
is.
it's not standards.
I wish I
based
could
that-
just black and white, A,
Yeah.
B, C, D, here you go, but that is not Munis,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wish you could too.
School
It's
accounting
just
is not, unfortunately, that's what we hear all the time. It's not the same as private sector accounting. So I think it would be great if if any of you want to come in and sit down and go over stuff with her.
I would love to have a meeting with you to explain anything that I could possibly help you understand. Because it's hard to present you the data without just putting it in a spreadsheet, which then is my created document. And then you're like, well, is that accurate? Because you created it. So I'm trying to show you the specific from the programs, the documents, instead of just a created document by me, but they're hard to read. So, I mean, I can create that document to make it easier and then have this as backup, but that's basically what we were trying to do, is just show you this is what we've submitted to the state and what is in our accounting system.
And
So, kind of circling back, you got 2.7 available right now, because you took the 1.5 out. And if the SHEER project came out and we bonded, and we went through bonds for that instead of ESSER,
That
look at
frees
5
up.
million,
That frees, yep, yes, sir.
or 5.2, something like that.
Yes, because that would free up that 2.5 we have committed to that project to use on something else. Whether it be staffing or some other academic initiative or other project, that would free those monies up. So flipping over to page 16 is kind of giving you now, trying to build the picture of the funds available and where we stand. And now 16 is kind of the costs. So looking at the budget right now that you're being presented with that 592 excess has the built-in annual step raises in it already, because that's what we're required every year to give with the annual year of experience step. So if you gave a percentage raise on top of that, this is what it's gonna cost with our current staffing level. So that first column is the cost of it. I'm showing that you've got that excess 592. So this is what, if we leave everybody on general fund, what we're gonna tap into contingency for at any one of these percentage raises. And then obviously, just kind of reminding you, we have the 2.7 in ESSER, or almost 5.2 if we reevaluate how we pay SHEER. HVAC, and then contingency is that 8.5, which is our 8 million beginning balance rollover, and the 592 excess that we're talking about right now is that 8.5 million. So this is kind of the spot of showing you what it costs, and knowing, projecting a year from now, SEEK will go down to some degree if our enrollment does not pick back up. And that projection at the moment, based on the factors that we know, is 1.5 million down. So I just want to keep that in mind. So with that knowledge of the future, what I, as your finance officer, is comfortable recommending is a 3%, a max 3% raise. But we will do as the board directs and what they feel is right for the district. These are your funding sources available. We do have the federal dollars, which Donald actually spoke of earlier. You move staff over to, it's not a one-to-one. It costs us more on federal dollars to pay staff than it does on general fund. But the monies are available to do so. But maximizing our dollars for our taxpayers is, what we need to do. So we're just trying to make sure funding sources available and what it's going to cost you, and what you all prefer for the district. So that's, if you kind of flip to page 17, I'm kind of giving you a snapshot like we did at Becky's presentation with her food service of, here's the tentative budget we set at now with our current steps, and we're right at that 80% mark of how that's falling on our budget. If you did a 3% raise, you're getting yourself up to 83%. If you did a 5%, you're almost at 85%, and then 8%, you're almost at 87% of your budget in personnel. So I speak to the 8% simply because we know the state gave a cost of living 8% to the state employees. Because the economy has, I mean, it's gotten expensive out there, and everyone is feeling that. And I would love to be able to give our staff an 8%. I just feel that's not physically responsible for where we know our budget's going and what we know is projecting with our SEEK decline. So that's why we're comfortable presenting you with recommending the 3% overall raise, because we want to benefit our entire district right now. And then that will give us a chance to kind of regroup on the wage study, look at how other districts raise their tables. If we do 3%, what did other districts around us do? We know some have done 5%, some have done 3%, some have done 1%. But kind of pull surrounding districts again, look at that again, and have a stronger presentation ready for the 23-24 school year of salary tables with that wage study, opposed to coming into this next school year, we would do an overall raise to everybody. Is the recommendation.
The way everything's going, I don't know if any percent's gonna be big enough to sustain what's going on up there. And,
No,
you know, so.
it's not, unfortunately. Just kind of forecasting. So slide 18 is kind of a forecast of next year. If you gave a 3, 5, and 8%, what that would look like personnel percentage wise on our budget, knowing that our revenue was going to go down in the following school year. So even at the 3%, if you gave a 3% this year, yes, we're at a 82.8%, but next year, with the only factor changing really at that point, knowing our SEEK's going down, if all other factors stayed the same, which we know obviously in a perfect world will not, that's not gonna occur, but you're gonna be at 87% of your personnel mark in the
That's if
FY
we keep the
'24
same
year.
staffing level.
Keeping the same staffing level. So that's that decision maker of, at some point, we are really gonna have to discuss the staffing level of where we stand with that. And then the last slide is just really showing you the benefits that we have to pay on top of salaries that were required. Just kind of reminding you what all those are. So that's the general fund, which is, you know, our big SEEK tax dollar, our main fund. Any questions? Discussion of anything we want to have? And then I can gloss through the other ones really fast just because Fund 2, grants, we only budget them as we know we're awarded them. So that's why you're seeing from FY '22 a way big dip. Plus we had all those ESSER funds. So that's the difference of why they've gone down from 19 million. So, you know, it looks like a decrease of $14 million in grants, but that's really not, we had ESSER dollars built in there. So that's a huge portion of it. And we just haven't been told what all of our awards are for next year. Fund 22 and 25, which are our district and school activity funds, those are budgeted as monies are collected. So there's no budgets in there right now because we've not collected any monies for next year. 310 and 320 are your capital funds, and these are your funds that pay your debt service on your bonds, and then also have the extra capital funds that we do capital funds request on for summer projects and such that we've brought before you in the last couple months. Debt service is just a synopsis of our debt that we owe on our bonds next year. And then we've kind of already talked about food service. So that's really kind of the tentative budget. Unless you'll have questions for me.
So on the 3%, your recommendation, 592 would come out of excess fund, 377 would either come out of contingency or ESSER.
Yes.
Could come out of ESSER, couldn't it?
Essentially, it would come out of ESSER by transferring staff over there. Is really how that would work.
And the reason why it was important to make sure that you all saw it stay on general fund, you know you got the flexibility to move, but that, again, is that recurring revenue. And so when the ESSER dollars do go away, they just seeing the importance of us working on that realignment of this, like you said, the staffing. So that's gonna show you how deep it starts going into your contingency. But it also shows you how much flexibility with the available monies that she and Mr. Stumpa spoke to tonight about what you can move back over to ESSER dollars. And it's kind of like, once you move them over, they still cost more money, but you still have all of this money to use. The reason why we were talking about the attendance incentive, again, gives you an opportunity to reward staff with a high, I don't want to say a wage, because it's not connected to their wage, but we're going to be able to possibly do something that still increases their take-home pay by using a fixed amount of the ESSER dollars. And we're working through our auditor and allowable funding matrix, if you remember all of those, on what we can do that with. Other districts are not doing COVID incentives, so we think that's gonna get kicked back. So we're trying to come up with something a little bit more creative also that's gonna help us then on the sub side, because we saw that the COVID incentive, again, with people still getting sick, it didn't help us really so much on the sub side. So we're trying to explore other options with that as well.
So I understand the staffing allocations have to be addressed at some point. Personally, the reason I didn't want to do it, I felt like too much too quick kind of thing. So, no, that's gotta happen at some point, so. Yeah,
Right.
well, I'm just
So
saying.
we've it's given us a great opportunity. It says, and again, what we did is we flipped our original. We didn't change our methodology about the wage study. We just flipped the sequence of what we needed to do. Becky's department is a great department to start with. Transportation's another great department because we've already been able to do a lot of the work there. But it will allow us, like Miss Ellis, sorry, was pointing out, is like now that all of these other districts have adjusted, we really need to go back and review those again to make sure that we are having an accurate competitive wage. And so our goal is to be better than the competitive wage. And so like what we found, for example, in food service, we were spot on. So, we want to be there or better. We don't want to keep something lower than the wage. And then again, it could make more adjustments the following year. So we've just flipped it. We can't do both like we were originally hoping, but we can still do something. And I think Ms. Ellis has come up with a really great plan on how we can properly look at that, know what we can shift. It gives us flexibility, doesn't get too deep into contingency, where it gives you enough padding in your ESSER dollars, but you also get to see the reality of what it looks like if we don't start thinking about some of those other difficult conversations too.
So is there any summer school this summer?
We have some limited summer school. It's not as robust. We're not doing transportation. It's going to be limited for that too. A lot of schools parents are wanting like some one-on-one. They either want the fun or they want like some one-on-one intervention. So we've got schools that are getting those things planned and coordinated with teachers. RDC, GRC, and ATC, they're actually doing a very comprehensive 2-week. I'll send all of the information to you. Ms. Fithen and Mr. Chinaki are pulling all those together, but it's not robust like it was last year for a lot of districts, but they're still doing tailored things. And then also making sure that our kids have access to like 4-H, or not FFA, extension office, the migrant or EL programs. They're still doing some bigger camps. Yeah. So they're happening more in pockets.
So on slide 16, that contingency available, shouldn't that be 8 million and not 8.5 because you got the 592 under the general fund excess? It shouldn't be in both, should it?
Well, your contingency is the 8.5. So it's made up of your beginning balance and your excess funds.
So, but like if we did 3%, if 3% got approved, contingency would be 8 million, not 8.5, right? If the money came out of ESSER.
If it came out of ESSER, your contingency is the 8.5 because you're not tapping into that excess fund at all. I was just trying to, I understand what you're saying. So,
okay.
I mean, it could be the 8 million since we have the general fund excess listed over here.
it's made up of the two buckets of money, but that is your true contingency number, the way everything has been budgeted out. So you're gonna go into the 8 million, the 377, is that what we're?
To cover the.
You're gonna use all the 592 listed there, plus another 377, 761 down into the 8 million.
Into the 8 million. And then the next year, it would have to go in again.
It's
out
gonna
of
compound,
contingency.
cause one, you're
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
step raises, you're gonna have that where you raised your tables, plus you're gonna have roughly a 1% budget overall salary increase, cause that's roughly what a step raise costs our district.
But that's assuming keeping staff.
Yes, that's assuming
level.
keeping the same staffing level. So if you change your staffing level, it wouldn't be.
And we don't know how many,
I'm
how
sorry?
many students, if we can increase the SEEK funding that's been budgeted, that we may get more if we get more students back. If more students come back, then we
Yeah, if you
anticipate.
have more students, then you would increase your seat.
So we won't know until all that happens.
Yeah. So you have my seat.
Any more questions? If someone feels led to make a motion. That'll be the right time.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve 3% salary increases. Before, I'm gonna table that for a second. Does that also, how does that affect food service? Was that part of that bucket that they
Yes,
showed?
so where they
Okay.
showed,
The
what a
3%
3% would cost on top of her
Okay.
proposal, that
She'd already
she would get the.
Yeah, so,
She could
okay,
afford
so
that, yes.
I'll keep that motion.
Okay, and then you're gonna do the budget
Are you gonna do
separate?
budget separate or?
Because the
were
actual
just-
agenda
That
item is
is
for
an item to
budget.
consider tentative budget. So, do you want to approve the
the budget
tentative
with
budget with the
With
3%?
salary
Yeah.
increase.
Approve the budget with 3% increase.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 14, consider action, and discussion of extending the terms of the one-time salary incentive to $3,000 to the Clark County Area Technology Center employees.
I'm gonna recuse myself for this discussion since I don't
Gotcha.
wanna, just,
Yeah.
somebody can text me when that is.
Is over?
when that's on.
Thank you, Mr. Colby.
Thanks.
Get a break.
Burger King's closed.
Okay, so what we have here is an easy fix. It's not gonna cost a lot of money. And we have ATC staff that are Clark County employees by family, but they're really KDE paid staff. And so we also have staff at our ATC that are truly Clark County paid employees and Clark County family. And they got the $3,000 incentive. And we have 8 staff over there in total that did not get the incentive. And they're only our kids, and so that was something that was really one of those inequities. And as we start finding things like this, we want to do our part to. We were working with one of our consultants, and he calls it like our right the wrong kind of policy, or procedure. So this is one of those opportunities where we felt like it was warranted. So we talked with our consultant. I had Ms. Ellis reach out to our auditor to make sure that we were in compliance with being able to give it. And they met all of the same requirements that our staff do, and they are only serving our kids. Talked with KDE regional director over our ATCs, made sure that we're not going to have any issues with it, and they weren't. So we made sure that we triangulated all that information, and we are recommending that our Mr. Addison, Mr. Willoughby, those gentlemen that were here, along with the rest of the ATC staff, again in total 8. 6 teachers, 1 secretary, 1 principal. Okay, just making sure I have my right 8. Gets to receive the same benefit that our other staff in the district got to receive. So that's what that is. And again, it's a fixed amount that's coming out of our already budgeted ESSER.
So they would get the total amount
Yes,
in May
ma'am.
where it was divided
Yes,
into
ma'am.
sections.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to extend the terms of the one-time salary incentive to the Clark County ATC employees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
You want to text Bill?
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, we can just leave him out there. See how long it takes him to figure out.
Yeah.
Do you need a
Yes,
break?
please.
I'm texting, but you can, okay, you guys go holler at him.
Consider action and discussion of the 22-23 school activity fund budgets.
So per Red Book, each of the schools who have an activity fund, which is our 7 main schools, they have to put together individual budgets for the activity accounts and then a principal combining budget. So what you've all been presented in the package is the principal's combining budget, which is the summary of all of those budgets that they are required by Red Book to do, and the formality of it being board approved. So that's what that is. That's their plans for next year of how they're gonna spend. Yeah.
Any questions?
I make a motion that we approve the 22-23 school activity fund budgets.
Second.
You good?
Oh, yeah, I already
Okay.
did earlier.
Okay,
I already
sorry.
did earlier, so I didn't have any
Okay.
questions.
So we have a motion by Ms. Considine and a second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Consider action, discussion, and approval of increasing certified extra service pay rate to $35 an hour. Ms. Ellis?
So currently on our supplemental schedule, certified teachers have been paid $25 an hour for service. And we are requesting that you would up that to $35 for the start of the summer school program this year. So we've been paying staff for extra services $25, and that will remain for the rest of the school year until summer school starts. It would be the $35 rate, and then that schedule would be adjusted for certified staff receiving extra service at $35 an hour to start the July 1 school year with.
So what you have is this current stipend schedule, which we are also, as part of the wage comparability study, comparing like what a coaches make in other districts, what a tutors make in other, we're looking at all of that as well. But the only thing we're recommending to change right now, because again, we put that on pause and we're going back through it, is just to make sure that we can be fair with our staff's time. At $35 an hour. So it's just that top line that says extra pay for teachers, does not include services such as coaching or team leader, hourly rate not to exceed. So when this gets republished, nothing else is gonna change on it except for that $25 an hour would go to $35 an hour if you all see fit.
And that would be like ESS.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting with July 1. So right now for June would just be summer school is what
Okay.
we're gonna apply the 35 to, is what we're asking. Because all year people have been doing ESS at 25,
Right,
so we don't wanna
25.
Yeah.
be
And
unfair for this year to those folks.
But
So right now it's
The
just summer school.
Summer school would get 35.
Yes.
right. And our PD that when we have our staff presenting, they're getting paid, so they would also get $35 an hour. So it's any extra service for that.
Okay.
Any questions? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve increasing the certified extra service pay rate to $35 an hour.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Number 17, consider action and discussion of monthly CCPS financial update. Ms. Ellis?
So this is what you all have been presented the last several months. Is just kind of the snapshot of where we stand at the end of the month, which we have finalized April financials that you're being presented. So the percentage against our budget of actual receipts collected is 82% at this time of year, and we were only at 66% at this time last year. So that's great news. Expenditures, we're kind of same. We're 56%. We were 54% this time last year. And I just want to kind of reiterate why that seems pretty low at April is because payroll. So you have basically 3 escrow checks for the bulk of your staff that are all paid out in June.
And so that's a huge portion of your payroll is basically you're getting 4 June checks, well, actually 5 June checks for the bulk of your payroll, because you've got your 2 June checks plus 3 escrows from the beginning of the school year, the way that flows out for teachers who start in August in that pay cycle. So the bulk of your payroll really gets paid in June. So that's why that percentage is kind of low.
Still seems kind of low though, even with those 4 paychecks.
It does. Payroll's a big chunk of your budget.
I know.
You're talking 80% of your budget is payroll, so, and then, that's a huge chunk of payroll is just in June. So, any questions on the revenue side? And then, looking at, or expense, that's revenues and expenses. So next is our tax collection. You can see we are at 100% property. And we're actually at 134% of our public service company or franchise. And a big portion of that is, I think you might remember a few years ago, we were short in this budget. We didn't come in at our budget because we had a disputed amount that was sitting at the state, and we didn't collect all of our franchise tax for that year that we were projecting. Because these companies have a right to, what's the word I'm looking for? Challenge their tax bill to the state, and so then it gets investigated and set on until some kind of resolution. So clearly a resolution has been made on some of those challenges, and we are now receiving those dollars, and that's why you're seeing a very large percentage collection this year above what our budget was, because we're kind of getting some back pay years on that fund.
Are you anticipating any more of the general property tax to come in, even though we're at 100%?
I think, talking with the sheriff, is when he drops his off, we're pretty much right at what our collection, I mean, you see we're about $100,000 difference roughly there, but I mean, we might have a few roll in next month, but probably not a whole lot more in that category, honestly.
Yeah, another huge shout out just to Sheriff Purdue and
Yes.
his, it's incredible.
His stats are insane.
It is just really great job.
And Michelle Turner too with motor vehicle, I mean, we're at 1.6 of our 1.5 budget there, so.
Yeah.
Doing good on our taxes, so that was nice to see when those April balances came out. So items of discussion, we just talked about the tentative budget, school activities, the one-time incentive, certified, this is all stuff we just discussed. This probably should have been in the front instead of at the back, but, and then supporting reports and our reports that you receive every month. Any questions on those? And then consent items, we have all the standard things, plus some extras this month. So finance consent items really kind of fall from 22, let's see what the number is, to 29. So we've got some surplus in there. We've got student fees, which is a standard, has to be approved by Red Book. The schools declare what they want to charge in fees, and the board, Red Book states the board must approve those. There were, the only changes this year were at RDC's level. They added in some clubs that they needed to charge, either competition, I can't remember exactly what it is because I don't have it in front of me. I'll pull that up. Here it is. So everything stayed the same except for RDC, and they added in their different choir, band, art, Project Lead the Way. So program certifications, like there's certain costs that they have in those programs to get certifications, and so that was in participation. So they were asking to start charging a fee in those areas. Our audit contract is on here because we have to, that just came out last month. And so that's for this next physical year we're in that they're auditing us, which they'll come starting. They probably won't come to the district till August or September to start auditing for this physical year that we're getting ready to end. But I need that signed to upload to KDE. And that just dropped this past month after the April meeting, so that's why it's on this meeting. Payroll calendar, just kind of establishing our dates for next year. So those are our items out there. Any questions on any of those?
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a
motion to consider action and discussion of monthly CCPS financial update.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. 18, authorized payment of salaries and accounts payable.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Internal board business. Consider approval for board members and superintendent to attend the KSBA Summer Leadership Institute July 15th through the 16th, 2022 at the Marriott Griffin Gate in Lexington.
Do we have to have charter training? Did we ever find out?
You would think if they passed that bill.
It was extra 12 hours.
Yeah.
I am waiting to hear back from, Dr. Flynn, so I've asked him that after you called me. Mhm.
Is that one?
Not effective we go.
Yeah.
Because-
I have to.
Yeah.
I have to.
Well, I started saying,
Okay.
we had it split, so I knew we were gonna have some, but I hope to, he actually called me today and I wasn't able to return his.
I can't
his
imagine
I'm
them
call.
taking
making this
some of
this year
mine.
since they just passed that.
Right.
That
Yeah.
the following year, I would think, but who knows?
Have to go this year. We have to go to this one and the one in December to try to get them.
If it's required.
I'm gonna take most of mine online and try to knock this out in one day. Any discussion?
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty crafty. Any discussion? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve board members, superintendent to attend KSBA Summer Institute.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'll be getting with you, Arlene, 'cause I've got to get my hours.
You better remind me, you know, I'm probably
Who made the second on that?
I did.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Number 20, superintendent's report.
Okay. So under strategic leadership, again, that strategic planning that we've sent out, or Studer sent out the parent, student, and staff surveys. That closed again on the 20th. Wage comparability study, so you've already heard a lot about that. I won't go through all of those.
I do have a question. Will
Yes.
we ever see it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
I
they,
mean, I feel like we've talked about it since like
the wage
August.
comparability?
Yeah.
Or, well,
I mean,
it's
I
not
knew you were
complete, but
gonna
I
do
can,
it.
yeah, we can share what we have with
Okay.
you, just so you can kind of see the process, or maybe when you all want to come in. I mean, it's not like a one sheet thing, it's like
Right.
multiple Google
Sure.
Drive pages of collections of information, so I might be able to move it over. I can make a copy and move it over to your shared drive. So
Okay.
that
It
you
would
can
just
start.
be nice to,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we talk about it a lot,
Mhm.
but I've never laid eyes on it.
Yeah, so I can show you that, and which is what Ms. Lowry went through on our methodology.
Right.
So again, we paused for the 22-23 year. We're gonna probably even redo it. So what you're seeing
Right.
is
It
the
should
structure.
change.
Yeah, it'll be
Right.
the structure, but we'll go through all of that again. Retention and recruitment work. So we're exploring some options on, again, not being able to give the competitive wage. So what can we do? So the attendance incentive is one of those things. How can we get other fringe benefits? I've had Ms. Ellis look at, and Dr. Parrish look at, like extra life insurance for staff.
What about additional personal day?
Yeah.
What does that cost?
That will be something we can add to our list of what to,
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
additional personal day.
Oh,
So that will be something that we can add to our list to look at. But the not the health insurance, I'm sorry, the life insurance, that's something that we've gotten some quotes on to see what we can do there. And it's a good portable model and it's extremely reasonable. So we're excited about looking at those things. Also, what can we offer? So Mr. Shanaki just handed me this. We're working with EKU, UK, MSU, Asbury College, CKEC, with different cohorts so that they can do even payroll deduction if necessary. Depends on how many we have though with that. I got excited about that too quickly. So that staff can get increase in pay by advancing their rank. So we're working on some things like that. Under instructional leadership, continued work with the Cardinal Lead PLC, and you've already heard from Ms. Bonfield that they went individually and met with teams. So we also had KASA testing, a great schedule there, extremely efficient. We did it in phases, elementary and then secondary. ATC principal selection, so I was really happy about the work that we did this year with KDE, building real strong relationships with them. We had a good community committee that came in. Hired a solid ATC principal Mr. Hall, that will start. He's already trying to start, but
I know.
he's excited. Of course, we hired a director of federal grants and our district assessment coordinator. I was able to work with Ms. Bonfield on some restructuring that I want to see happen there, so that we have extra criteria that's going to elevate that role, encompass more work around the instructional specialist, and also supportive professional learning, instructional coaching for leaders. Part of that 57-page PDF document that you all saw was a compilation of that type of collaboration. We are going to begin a heavy lift on curriculum maps. I'm excited about making sure that our curriculum maps are both vertically and horizontally aligned. Elementary is pretty solid in a couple of areas, but not holistically. So we're going to be doing that. It's going to be based on rigor, relevance, and endurance of standards. So if you're a curriculum map geek like myself, you'll appreciate that. We also want to make sure that they are grade level appropriate. They offer spiraling. My love language is going to be the language objective is going to be connected to those curriculum maps, which are going to support your English language learners, your struggling readers, how they really process and respond. So that's where that language is. Are you going to respond in writing? Are you going to respond in a presentation? So that language objective is going to keep us mindful of how we keep student engagement at the forefront of our instructional practices. And then other attributes that are going to, again, keep us student-centered. Cultural leadership. May was a huge, I like to get to a lot of things, but I think overextended May. So lots of great things going on in our district. Strode Battle of the Books, pretty exciting. Right there. Concrete Aristocats was pretty awesome. Worked with Heritage Museum, Winchester Sun, and Fox 56 to really showcase our RDC cafeteria staff. Miss Davis and her team was absolutely phenomenal. Clark Regional Hospital, I attended a diversity event that they had of VISync. It is artwork that is layered, it's photography that is layered in artwork. You all need to really go see it. It's just incredibly beautiful. A grandparent and her granddaughter were two of the residents of Clark County, and so Miss Ida, what's Miss Ida's?
Ida Steele.
Ida Steele. Miss Ida Steele was in one of the photographs. Oh my gosh! So anyway, it was incredible. So I really appreciated getting to go to that. Of course, baccalaureate was great. I have met with a Hispanic Latino parent group that wanted to come in and share concerns and ideas with me. Of course, they knew my background with EL and migrant programs, so it was I got to share some of those things with Miss Mann. She's got some great ideas on how we can be more intuitive, intentional about meeting the needs around cultural awareness, supports for students, supports for families, because a lot of our EL families, a student is going to exit with the language, but the family is still, having difficulty in making sure that they can have relationship with their school. So we're excited about that. And then also attending the Serving Leader Community Cohort with other executives in Clark County. Standard 4, again, what Ms. Fithen shared with you about our power schools and PD tracking. The LEAD Academy is going to be layered into some of the summer programming, leadership training that we're going to do with our principals around opportunities for personnel issues, as well as being a stronger instructional coach. Draft budget, you've already heard about that. Miss Ellis mentioned the 1-to-1 Chromebook replacement. So again, we got all this great technology, now we got to keep it up. So we're working on a plan for that Mr. Kaysen is finalizing. And then another thing that we're going to be doing this summer is working through a district lead calendar, so everything is extremely planned out. Like, we should not be having site-based meetings when we have board meetings. So we're going to make sure that we have some structures in place of when things can happen, when things can't happen, when our cadre meetings are going to meet, whether it's interventionists or facilitators or base team or the lead team. So we're going to have that out so that people can plan better. Facility planning, you've heard about all of those things, and we'll talk more in depth about that at the work session. Started attending the EMA. I cannot tell you everything that this stands for, but it's Clark County Emergency Management Programming with Chief Asbury, Whiteley, Sheriff Perdue, new Chief Hall, everyone in Clark County that is around emergency management, the judge, the mayor. What's unique about it is this started across the state, and it stayed going in Clark County, which is phenomenal. And that's how they are able to write more FEMA grants. So I connected with them over some things that I was exploring for our preschool situation. Like, is there other money I can capture to help build our preschool? The answer, unfortunately, is no. It was like $1 million, but it had to be connected to a storm shelter, which, when you're putting your preschool beside Strode and Baker, you already have 2 storm shelters, so then you create another problem of volume of people coming into now 3 storm shelters. So, but I explored that. But that's a great group that Mr. Stump and I will probably bounce back and forth with, and Mr. Damon may even help us, just in case you don't know Billy. Site-based principal selection, so partnering with our SBDMs, Ms. Bonfield has been doing all the trainings for them. We've worked with them to create parent surveys, staff surveys. We've got those launched. She actually met with RDC today, and Sheer and Justice. We also have identified some top candidates for them, doing reference checks, sharing that information with site-based, and then taking guidance from them. Preschool principal is not SBDM, but we will be forming a committee so that I can get a preschool principal placed. And then also working, Ms. Bush has done a really good job at working with Phoenix staff and GRC and RDC to kind of have like an intake committee. Because there's always like, well, that kid needs this and this kid needs that. So it's like an intake committee can holistically look at things in a very disciplined approach to make sure that we're making best decisions. And then CKEC, Superintendent's PLC, they had actually asked me to come and present about our structure for the work session. And I told them at first it was a little overwhelming. You know, we all came in, lots of people there. But after we got through the night, it was just a really nice opportunity for you all to engage with school staff. And so I'm sharing all of those resources with them, because we have superintendents that are wanting to possibly replicate this type of work session. They may pick different categories, but it was a nice opportunity. And so that is it. If you all have any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda items. Anything anyone needs to clarification about? Questions? Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent items 21 through 35.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Motion carries. Adjourn to close session, I'm sorry. Per KRS 61.810, KRS 656.557, and KRS 61.810 for proposed litigation. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We're in closed session at 9:50.